Dragon Tamer. This video is purely for entertainment and does not infringe on copyrights or laws. The rights to the novel and image belong to the original author. We do not claim ownership. Don't like waiting and want to listen to this fanfic in full now? Subscribe to our Patreon, where you'll find the best fanfics. Chapter 251 Energy Techniques. Blue Hook Blood Beast. Liu Ming had never learned telekinesis. After all, after 10 years of wandering in the future, he still lingered in the lower middle ranks of the specialized group known as evolutionary professionals. Awakening telekinesis, even just an ascent one, meant a ticket to the 5th level Nirvana semi-saint stage. However, few ever truly reach that level. Therefore, he knew little about the specifics of the mysterious power derived from this mental power. What little he knew came from hearsay and fragments gleaned from rumors about other telekinetic masters. However, this lack of understanding didn't significantly hinder his mastery of this power, as he possessed extensive practical experience. Ultimately, the essence of telekinesis was a high-level application of ethereal mental energy, applying it to physical matter, ultimately affecting reality. This power could actually be considered a type of energy, though unlike primordial ki, sword energy, flames, and frost, which could manifest as physical energies, telekinesis possessed an ever-changing, abstract nature. When mental power is transformed into telekinesis and used by its controller, it can simultaneously imbue it with the properties of various energies. In other words, telekinesis doesn't manifest itself as an energy form, yet it possesses the properties of any energy form. Liu Ming, however, possesses a profound understanding of energy manipulation. 10 years of memory have given him a wealth of experience in energy manipulation that surpasses his generation. The telekinetic bomb stems from a familiar energy technique, also known as energy skill. This differs from abilities, talents, and specialties bestowed upon the altar's divine grace. It is a skill inherently created by humanity, from which countless other branches have emerged. However, historically, even the first energy skill appeared a year after the apocalypse. The explosive energy skill, upon which his telekinetic bomb was based, is a common variant of these derived energy skills. Essentially, it involves the continuous spiral compression of energy, ultimately triggering an explosion. The results achieved by applying telekinesis to this energy skill have left Liu Ming extremely satisfied. Although he knew that energy skills, like those of professionals, would become commonplace in the future, this only referred to ordinary energy skills with mediocre power or extreme difficulty in control. Energy skills that were powerful, easy to control, and remarkably stable were precious and rare, not accessible to ordinary people. Explosive energy skills were a common example of ordinary energy skills. Their popularity stemmed not from their low power, but rather from their immense power. Furthermore, they were extremely unstable. While continuously compressing energy was not difficult for evolutionary professionals, there was also the issue of stability. While ordinary professionals lacked strong control over energy, and highly compressed energy required minimal skill, they could certainly perform. However, the resulting compressed energy was as unstable as high explosives exposed to air. Far from attacking an enemy, the chances of it exploding, while compressed, were greater. Most explosive energy skills relied on collision to detonate. Consequently, these energy skills were fraught with significant instability, making them unpopular with professionals. While they envied the power of explosive energy techniques, the feeling of being unable to control them was unbearable for ordinary people. However, Liu Ming's telekinetic detonation of telekinetic bombs solved this problem with near-perfect control. Furthermore, wrapping his telekinesis within the highly compressed mental energy provided an additional layer of security, making the attack more stable and safer. More importantly, Liu Ming was deeply familiar with this energy technique. While it was unstable, injuring others while injuring himself 800 times, its immense power was undeniable. For a long time, Liu Ming hunted monsters in the wild. Without powerful weapons or impressive abilities, the most powerful attack he possessed was this unexpectedly acquired explosive energy technique. Despite being injured several times by his own compressed energy bombs, he remained deeply fascinated by this simple, yet incredibly powerful technique. After 2 years of continuous refinement, his explosive energy technique was vastly different from when he first mastered it. Later, He even named this improved energy technique Liu's explosive bomb energy technique. During the compression process, the 85% chance of self-destruction was reduced to 25%, becoming one of his trump cards. This technique was extremely effective against groups of monsters that were individually weak but numerous. The telekinetic bomb, based on his own Liu-style explosive bomb energy technique, utilized telekinesis and mental power in place of primordial energy for a devastating blow. With just this one strike, he severely damaged a level 2 cannibal beast, demonstrating its astonishing destructive power. Liu Ming looked at the cannibal beast, its face unusually pale from excessive use of primordial energy, and a complex expression. He hadn't expected the erosion beast, which had forced him to flee into a cave, to be annihilated by a single attack. Although this was also due to surprise, the cannibal beast could never have imagined that he had grown so powerful in just a few days that he could kill it in a split second. And if he had allowed the cannibal beast to recover, he would likely still be outmatched. After all, the disparity in power was immense. The sheer destructive power of his telekinetic bombs was only at SS level at best, still a far cry from tier 2. Just as Liu Ming was about to approach the cannibal beast, he suddenly stopped. He suddenly swung his sword, a flash of grey flame slashing across the bloody wound of the cannibal beast. Rip. The wound, already punctured by a bloody hole, was ripped open by the sharp blade, leaving a gruesome wound that pierced half of the beast's leg. Seeing that the cannibal beast remained motionless, he continued to approach the corpse. After 6 months of exploring the Night Crown ruins, he had learned the cunning nature of the creatures within. It wasn't the first time he'd encountered creatures feigning death and attacking, hence his caution. But now, it seemed the cannibal beast was truly dead. Erosion beast. Liu Ming's eyes lit up with a fiery intensity. It had taken him 4 or 5 years to tame a tier 2 monster, a powerful beast pet of this caliber. Now, that time had been greatly advanced. But what is still unknown is whether the blood beast summoned from the corpse of the cannibal beast can also reach the 2nd level. Logically speaking, the summoned blood beast will be 1 level weaker than when it was alive. However, he still showed anticipation. Although Liu Ming's original energy has been exhausted, the blood energy contained in his body is still surging. He swung his right hand, and his hand felt warm, as if streams of heat were constantly flowing through it. Immediately afterwards, countless blood lights shot out from the palm of his right hand, like dark red blood threads, quickly wrapping the huge corpse of the cannibal beast into a cocoon of light. Waves of heart-pounding breath emanated from the body of the cannibal beast, which had already lost all traces of life. Feng Shi has a project that needs to be launched online next Tuesday. He has been busy with the project these 2 days. He took some time to code a chapter to prove that he is still alive, and then continue to test and debug bugs. Chapter 252. Xitagabha's Secret. The Collapse of the Four Poles. The wind whistled, and snow fell. The endless blizzard above the floating ruins didn't fade quickly with the passing of the frosty moon. A figure seemed to slowly approach from the edge of the blizzard, trailing behind it on the ground, and in the sky dozens of dark figures of various sizes, beasts, and birds. Among them, the shadows following closely on either side were the largest and most ferocious. Liu Ming walked through the blizzard, unshaded by a single snowflake, and showed no sign of the distress of being trapped by the freezing cold of the snow. Instead, he was relaxed and at ease. Even the annoyance of not finding any clues to the mission vanished. How could he not be pleased? Not only had he summoned a 2nd level cannibal blood beast, a terrifying monster on par with Wolf Sword Human, the strongest of the Night Forward base, a high level transcendent. Even from the perspective of 10 years after the apocalypse, a 2nd level evolutionary was considered a senior evolutionary, a key member of any demon hunting team. He remembered that it wasn't until a year after the apocalypse that Wuling City produced its first professional to reach the 2nd stage of evolution, and he had only been in this world for about half a year. He estimated that, if he had practiced according to the rules and regulations, it would probably take another year to reach the 2nd stage. But now, relying on the Blue Hook Blood Beast and his vast telekinetic power, he had already achieved it ahead of time. What shocked and delighted him even more was that he had mastered the most powerful method he currently possessed, telekinesis, and had even achieved remarkable results. It was already 10 days since the blue hook blood beast was summoned. With its sense of smell even surpassing that of the wolf-like blood beasts before, Liu Ming was getting closer and closer to the source of the scent of Eren's parents. However, the journey was not easy. As the cold month passed, all kinds of strange monsters awakened from hibernation and attacked Liu Ming, the food that roamed the earth openly, from underground, in rock crevices, and in earthen pits. Even the intimidation of the Kanghook blood beast couldn't stop the relentless attacks of monsters starved for a winter. Aside from a few more intelligent monsters frightened by the Kanghook blood beast, the low-level rot beasts, acting entirely on instinct, had no way of avoiding, and didn't know how. Take, for example, the group before him. At that moment, a herd of rot beasts, as big as calves, and resembling rat badgers, squeaked and scurried out from the cracks in the rubble. Even as the Kanghook blood beast, following closely to Liu Ming's right, let out a series of low growls, these rat-like monsters charged at Liu Ming without hesitation. Liu Ming sneered. These monsters, countless times larger than ordinary rat badgers, were clearly at any level or higher. At first glance, they were densely packed, likely numbering at least 1,000. Before, they might have posed a threat, but now, they were simply courting death. He spread out the 5 fingers of his right hand and lightly pressed down on the monster scurrying across the rubble before him. Boom. With a sudden, resounding explosion, the rubble beneath the densely packed swarm of rat badgers exploded like a buried bomb. Countless shards of rock flew tens of meters high, and hundreds of rat badgers were struck by the debris, screaming in agony. However, the explosion was clearly not fatal. Immediately afterwards, countless shards of rock and stone plummeted back down at a rapid speed. Only 3 or 2 of the monsters escaped, while the rest were completely buried under the rubble. Xitagabha's secret, collapse. This secret, derived from the Earth Pole secret treasure within the 4 pole vaults of Earth, fire, wind, and water, contained in a telekinetic device Liu Ming had obtained from the military in the Eastern Security Zone. The telekinetic device had become a legacy, imbued in his mind, and he had fully grasped the spiritual cultivation and reasoning concepts contained within the 4 pole secret treasures. However, understanding is not mastery, and no one other than the venerable monk who had created the secrets had mastered these concepts. Only the Fengji secret treasure, which the master had successfully cultivated, had a more complete record, including some methods of cultivation. However, many of these methods were of little use to Liu Ming. After all, the monk's path of cultivation was completely different from Liu Ming's. As a Buddhist monk, the master's practice of the Fengji secret treasure was imbued with religious overtones. Its core principles were tranquility and enlightenment, the core concept being to constantly maintain inner peace and grasp the essence of the wind's ever-changing nature with an unmoving mind. Once one could routinely maintain the state of mind follows the wind, my heart remains unmoved, one would be considered a master. This proved exceedingly difficult for Liu Ming. Fortunately, however, through telekinesis, he finally gained some understanding from this secret, gaining a preliminary grasp of some of the secrets and applications of the Earth's ultimate secret treasure. His strength was only slightly stronger than before, thanks to his ability to control telekinetic explosive attacks. His ability to cause rubble and rock to explode and collapse with a single press of the air was a manifestation of the collapse secret of the Earth's ultimate secret treasure. Unfortunately, it was only a pile of rubble. If it were a tall building, he could have collapsed it in an instant. Landslides can be categorized as landslides, rockfalls, mountain avalanches, and snow avalanches, and the only type he currently possessed was rockfalls. Hundreds of his companions, baring their teeth and appearing ferocious one moment, were buried beneath the rocks like a swarm of stink bugs the next, startling the pack of rat badgers and causing their attacks to falter. For predatory monsters driven solely by bestial instincts, using more ferocious tactics was undoubtedly the most effective strategy. Based on past experience, these monsters should be frightened by now, and even one more kill would scare them away. After all, with so many prey, there was only one life left. Just as Liu Ming spread his hands and pressed down on another denser group of rat badgers, a creature much larger than the average badger suddenly leaped out and roared loudly. It was a rat badger the size of a full-grown hippopotamus. Responding to its roar, the monsters, momentarily startled by Liu Ming, suddenly accelerated and launched a frenzied attack. The sudden acceleration caused Liu Ming to misjudge the situation. Only a dozen or so rat badgers remained buried in the rubble. The rest burst forth. Liu Ming, unfazed, simply watched the creature, which had briefly surfaced and then lurked back into hiding, a sinister grin playing on his face. His collapse technique had just undone most of the buried rat badgers. After all, they were merely buried by the rubble, not the collapse of a building or a landslide. For most monsters, at least E rank, this wasn't fatal, it merely trapped them temporarily. Who could have imagined that these creatures, even more desperate than they were, would have a leader? A leader so clueless, he actually sprang forth and urged his men to their doom. A tremor trembled behind Liu Ming, and fiery red wings emerged. With a flutter of blazing flames, he soared towards the large rat badger. The badger leader was startled to see an enemy abandon his own men and charge towards him. The sight of this creature burying hundreds of its men with a single blow was still fresh in its mind. It didn't dare engage it head on, ducking into the throng of monsters. The badger monster was incredibly agile, dodging here and there. Liu Ming, soaring through the air, couldn't catch up, and for a moment, was completely helpless. Seeing it couldn't catch up, the badger monster exulted, hissing provocatively at the pursuers behind it as it ran. Liu Ming watched the shrewd creature, 200 or 300 meters away, gloating with amusement. "We're almost there," he muttered, estimating the distance. He raised his right hand, clenched his fingers, and formed a fist. The badger leader, still dodging at over 100 kilometers per hour, froze in place, his speed suddenly slowing. His cunning eyes were filled with terror. His body, still running, fell forward due to inertia, knocking him unconscious. Ksitagabha's secret art, heavy pressure. Liu Ming mastered the second Ksitagabha secret art in the past 10 days. Unlike gravity, this technique instantly increases the external forces acting on the body, including the body's own weight. This time, he was increasing the pressure by 3 times. This was like the badger monster leader, running at top speed, experiencing both its weight and the external forces multiplying by 2 times in an instant. It was even more strenuous than wearing heavy full body armor twice its own weight. Every pore and every blood vessel in its body was now under 3 times the pressure. Watching the badger monster leader, still crawling away at a snail's pace after falling, Liu Ming couldn't help but laugh. With a flick of his wings, he arrived in front of the badger monster and placed his 40-foot foot on the badger monster's inverted triangle-shaped head, which refused to give up its squirm. He asked, "Still running? Ha ha ha, long time no see, brothers." Those who stayed were just watching with nostalgia. They definitely won't blame me for being such a slacker. Chapter 253, Danger is approaching, my strength. The badger leader, its head firmly stomped, knew it was doomed and impossible to escape. Instead of trying to flee, it struggled mightily. The badger's strength was barely less than Liu Ming's, and its ferocious struggle sent Liu Ming stumbling. Liu Ming watched the badger's dying struggle with a look of surprise on his face. He had mastered the Howard poison technique to such an extreme that his physical strength had reached the level of a high-ranking knight in this world, comparable to a second-tier melee fighter. Combined with the boosts from the lava heart and dragon veins, his strength and physique were no less than a second-tier pure power warrior. Yet, this creature had managed to break free. It seemed this badger leader was no ordinary monster. It was a shame that his perceptive abilities seemed to be ineffective in this world. Otherwise, he would have been able to more directly assess its strength. However, he estimated it to be above the first tier SS level, approaching the second tier. He glanced at the rat badgers, who had frantically rushed to Liu Ming's rescue, their leader being hunted by him. Liu Ming's telekinesis surged like a tidal wave towards the badger leader, placing triple the pressure on the struggling creature. Then, with a sudden leap, he stomped his foot down on its wedge-shaped head. The hippopotamus-sized badger seemed to sense the impending doom the moment the restraining force struck, its eyes gleaming with despair and hatred. Liu Ming ignored it, unsheathing the Jufeng blade at his waist and swinging it. With a flash of light, the massive badger's corpse was torn apart. Its followers, who had come to besiege Liu Ming, also scattered with shrill screams after their leader fell. Looking at the badger's corpse, Liu Ming smiled with satisfaction. Based on his experience summoning blood beasts 1 or 2 levels higher than his previous life, this badger was probably a first tier SS level or even SSS level badger, capable of summoning at least a first tier S level blood beast. Because the number of blood beasts he could control was limited, likely due to the endurance of the Scholar Hand's soul-based magic matrix, he now had increasingly high standards for the blood beasts he summoned. Aside from the flying blood beasts, monsters below rank A ultimately ended up as a ball of blood essence. He'd discovered that he needed monsters at least rank A or higher to guarantee the summoning of blood beasts of C rank or higher. In this strange and dangerous floating ruin, creatures below rank C were mere cannon fodder. Unless they could be as numerous as the rat badger horde, appearing in their hundreds or even thousands, they would instantly become defenseless prey to apex predators like the cannibal beast. Liu Ming, on the other hand, could summon and control even fewer blood beasts than the small group of rat badger monsters that had just collapsed and buried under his hand. With a wave of his hand, a ball of bloody light enveloped the corpse of the rat badger leader. As blood swirled and new blood beasts bred within the blood energy, Liu Ming looked up at the sky, a hint of fatigue in his eyes. He had been searching the ruins for nearly 2 months, and all he saw was broken walls, overgrown with weeds and smoky trees, a desolate scene that would surely tire anyone. As if sensing Liu Ming's mood, the cannibal blood beast, following closely behind him, slowly approached, nuzzling its forehead with its massive head. Liu Ming let out a chuckle, looking at the creature before him. It was a ferocious beast resembling a tiger or leopard, with a slender body, covered in dark red scales, or thick tail, with a sharp, curved hook, stood upright behind it, raised high, pointing toward the sky. It emanated a powerful, tyrannical aura, yet this aura had no effect on Liu Ming. This cannibal blood beast was perhaps the most intelligent of all the blood beasts he had summoned. Liu Ming even considered keeping it as a dragon pet, allowing it to evolve a second time, significantly increasing its strength in a short period of time. However, he ultimately realized his wishful thinking was foolish. After failing to contract the cannibal blood beast, he discovered that the blood beasts he summoned weren't so much living beings as they were specialized life forms, somewhere between puppets and living creatures. They resembled normal life in every way, but each one lacked a soul. Instead, a crimson magical mark imbued the beast with intelligence and signaled Liu Ming's absolute control. If he so desired, Liu Ming could even destroy the mark with a single thought, instantly killing the beast. A soulless being couldn't sign a contract and become Liu Ming's dragon pet. When a calf-sized blood beast emerged from the bloody light, Liu Ming immediately climbed onto its back, leading the other beasts away into the distance. Although Liu Ming had lost track of the clues he had been searching for due to his encounter with the cannibal blood beast, its sense of smell was undoubtedly even more astonishing than that of the other beast. It quickly discovered a new clue and made its way towards the source of the scent. Even as they drew closer, Liu Ming's expression grew increasingly grim and solemn. Throughout the journey, he'd harbored a persistent premonition, as if something sinister awaited him at the source of the scent. Those with awakened sixth senses possess an unusually keen sense of hidden danger. He wasn't overly surprised by this sense of danger. After all, Aaron's missing father was a great knight, perhaps reaching the 3rd tier of combat prowess. Her mother was no weakling either, a top tier hunter even more formidable than even the high-ranking knight, wolf sword Cuman. The disappearance or even death of a couple so powerful as himself meant the danger they faced was certainly not to be underestimated. Liu Ming even considered abandoning the mission several times, but the secret Great Knight training techniques passed down through the Aaron's family held him back. For the past 6 months, despite concealing much of his strength, the fame of his blood beast blade still resonated throughout the Night Fortress. Yet, even then, he hadn't been able to obtain a single high-ranking knight training technique, and even the only intermediate-ranking technique he'd collected was the stone-heavy rock fist. This finally convinced him that the world's top secrets were held by a select few, and that his own unconventional methods were unrealistic. His quick mastery of Howard's poisoning technique had also instilled in him a thirst for knowledge, and he yearned to acquire a single top secret. How long will it take? Liu Ming asked, patting the head of the cannibal blood beast beneath him. 9 days. A vague thought came to him. 9 days? Liu Ming narrowed his eyes and began to ponder. This time, there was a high probability of encountering a danger of level 3 or higher in the place where Eren's parents disappeared. It was best to be prepared. He currently possessed 4 main types of power. How he could maximize these powers would determine whether he could safely survive this crisis. Although clairvoyance was ineffective in this world, Liu Ming could still calculate his current attributes as follows. Magical abilities: Advanced Crimson Shield, Summon Blood Beast, Advanced Blood Essence Extraction, Advanced Crimson Ray, Deadly Crimson. Magical attributes: Liquid Damage Immunity, Resilience. Although Liu Ming's cultivation of his primal ki had been neglected over the past 6 months due to his hasty pursuit of rapid mastery of the night training method, he had nonetheless advanced to a higher level, reaching level 1B. However, with the Scholar Hand's 5 magical abilities and 2 magical attributes alone, Liu Ming's combat prowess was now on par with that of S rank and above. Furthermore, his physique and strength rivaled those of a level 2 warrior, along with his immense telekinesis, capable of challenging even a level 2 evolved class. His overall strength was approaching level 2C. Had he not encountered the Blue Hook Beast after the previous battle with the Yellow Sandworms, his pre-awakened telekinesis strength would have been sufficient to deal with it, eliminating the need for such a hasty escape. Furthermore, his blood energy, both in terms of concentration and total volume, had reached a terrifying level. Forget about anything else. The Scholar Ray he now possesses, at full power, is capable of directly killing a first tier C rank evolver. The reason he hasn't yet unlocked and constructed new magical abilities and traits is entirely due to the fact that while the concentration and total amount of blood energy are sufficient, the level of refinement, or purity, is insufficient. The 3 dism secrets of collapse, pressure, and earth sinking, the Scholar Hand, in addition to 4 combat-capable magical abilities and 2 traits extracted from high-level blood energy, possess the 9-star Absolute Blade, the physical strength and resistance comparable to a 2nd-tier warrior, and Howard's ultimate poison technique, the Toxic Bite, capable of poisoning a mid-level knight equivalent to a 1st-tier S-rank evolver or higher. And then there are the legions of blood beasts, led by the Kangal blood beast. If this force were on Earth, even if time had rolled back to the early 2nd year of the apocalypse, it would be unstoppable. Chapter 254, Floating Volcano, Burning Despair. The winter months of blizzards have passed, but in some areas, the weather remains harsh. The Night Crown ruins are nestled in this harsh, snow-battered wind-ravaged environment. All that's visible is a desolate expanse of ruins, dominated by countless boulders and rocks. The Ashhook Bloodbeast continues to gallop through the endless deadly desolation, followed by a swarm of other bloodbeasts roaring in pursuit. The leading Ashhook Bloodbeast, fearless, races through the perilous ruins at lightning speed. The dangers lurking in the shadows are largely insignificant to this predator at the top of the food chain within the ruins. Atop the back of this massive predator, as tall as a building, sits an unkempt man, a long sword slung across his shoulders. On his shoulder, a small, winged humanoid figure, carrying a large package, also sits. Suddenly, the beast, a force that shunned all other dangerous creatures, came to a screeching halt before a hill rising high in the center. Liu Ming, perched on its back, lost in thought, was startled awake by the beast's sudden stop. He took in the scene before him, his expression grave. He patted the beast's head and asked, "The scent is in there?" The beast tilted its head, blinked at the man, and nodded in affirmation. This was the 14th day since the Kanghook Bloodbeast had been summoned. The encounters with the Kanghook Bloodbeast, the repeated chases and battles, had disrupted all of Liu Ming's previous leads. However, after the Kanghook Bloodbeast had memorized the scent of Eren's parents' clothes, the task of locating the source of the scent fell to the wolf-shaped Bloodbeast. Fortunately, the Kanghook Bloodbeast, at its 2nd level power level, possessed a keen sense of smell worthy of its status as a 2nd level monster. Soon, a new clue was found. Eventually, Liu Ming was brought here. The hillock before him was a small volcano. As for the possibility that the ruins high in the sky couldn't even connect to the Earth's crust, and how such a thing could exist, Liu Ming had no idea. However, judging by the plumes of ash rising from the crater and the searing heat palpable even from hundreds of meters away, Liu Ming had every reason to believe it was an active hostile volcano. Looking at the Kangal blood beast's resolute expression, Liu Ming had come to a conclusion. Knowing there's a tiger in the mountain, yet still choosing to go there. If that insidious sense of danger came from an active volcano, then at least he could be certain the danger wasn't from the environment or inanimate objects. After all, he didn't consider himself unlucky enough to face the danger of a volcanic eruption. As for living creatures, a monster capable of surviving in the extremely harsh environment of an active volcano would surely be far more than formidable. The Kangal blood beast was simply too fast, and even its efforts to slow down were futile. As a result, Liu Ming's blood beast army was left far behind. However, over 6 months of exploring the ruins had worn away Liu Ming's remaining patience, and he had decided not to wait any longer. Furthermore, in a confined space like the volcano, with its harsh and unpredictable environment, his numerical advantage was completely useless. Liu Ming simply led his most powerful blue hook blood beast, the phantom songstress, whose hallucinogenic properties were even limited to blue hook beasts, and the summoned heroic spirit, Kemenwen, and headed straight for the crater. The closer they got to the crater, the hotter the air became. Even with Liu Ming's physique, beads of sweat formed on his forehead upon reaching the crater. The intense heat was unimaginable. The phantom songstress, perched on Liu Ming's shoulder, was already shriveled and limp, like a scorched apple by the fire. She shrunk and sagged, limp as an octopus, clinging to Liu Ming's shoulder. Only the blue hook blood beast and Kemenwen remained oblivious to the heat. One, with its powerful body and the other a spiritual life form, possessed a remarkable resistance to extreme environments. Liu Ming wiped the sweat from his forehead, feeling perplexed. With his lava heart and dragon bloodline, he was naturally resistant to fire. Yet, he was still sweating profusely from the heat. This strange volcano was definitely beyond the common understanding of volcanoes. Even before reaching the crater, the temperature of the air he inhaled reached 70 or 80 degrees Celsius. An ordinary person would be roasted in such an environment. Even the ordinary transcendents of this world would be unable to withstand such intense heat. The closer he got to the crater, the faster Liu Ming's heartbeat grew. Despite the sweat dripping from his face, a feeling of intuition filled him with joy. Boom, boom, boom. His chest rose and fell, his heartbeat rapidly intensifying. The lava heart, once obtained from hunting the lava fiery hound, seemed to be attracted to something within the volcano and was stirring. Moreover, this attraction was even stronger than the blood eagle heart's pull on the scalded hand. How could he not have known at this moment that something crucial for strengthening the lava heart lay hidden within this dwarf volcano? He couldn't help but recall the disappearance of Erenz's parents. They had journeyed to this desolate ruins in search of a secret treasure that would enhance Erenz's aptitude. It seemed highly likely that the secret treasure lay within the volcano, and Erenz's parents were also likely within. Near the crater, the temperature exceeded 100 degrees. Even the sweat on Liu Ming's forehead rapidly evaporated into steam. This environment was too much for a flesh and blood body to withstand. Perhaps only those who had reached the stage of physical conditioning, the peak strength he remembered, could withstand such conditions with composure. Even the Kangal blood beast became extremely irritable and restless in such high temperatures. Liu Ming was thankful he hadn't brought his own army of blood beasts with him. Their behavior would have been even worse. Even now, he was barely holding on thanks to the flame resistance of his lava heart and dragon veins, as well as the protection of his flame dragon wing cloak. Not to mention the blood beasts, most of which were even weaker than him. Though shielded by his cloak, shielding the phantom songstress from the surging heat, she was growing increasingly languid and looked on the verge of collapse. Gazing at the volcanic crater before him, its sea of blazing red, like a world in flames, Liu Ming hesitated. The temperature inside the volcano was surely even higher. Not to mention the hidden dangers, even the eerie heat alone would likely overwhelm him. It was a shame he hadn't brought anything with him upon arriving in this world. If only he had a few ice-attributed divine items to sustain him, this wouldn't have happened. Ice attribute? Ice attribute? A flash of lightning seemed to flash through his mind. Chapter 255, Lake Fruit, Lava Snake, Part 1. This flash of inspiration made Liu Ming mutter to himself, fearing he would miss this fleeting idea. That's right. Telekinesis. Besides the telekinetic bomb, He currently possessed only the three main uses of the secret treasure of the Earth's End. While the secret treasure of the Earth's End Earth attributed abilities weren't particularly useful in this scorching environment, aside from firing ceramic clay pots. Remember that telekinesis is inherently adaptable. Liu Ming wasn't a dreamer. Acting on his ideas was part of his nature. As soon as he considered this possibility, he frantically mobilized his mental energy, imagining scenes of icy snow, imagining himself perched atop an endless expanse of ice and snow. Despite being in a strange volcano where snowflakes falling below 500 meters melted into droplets, evaporating into steam as they fell, a biting cold wind seemed to blow all around him. The god of ice and snow still roared in the depths of winter, blanketing the heavens and earth with frost, and countless rivers transformed into vast glaciers. The invisible and intangible spiritual force continued to flow, transforming into telekinesis, slowly emerging from his palm. Gradually, a thin layer of icy blue frost coated Liu Ming's entire right palm. Seeing this, Liu Ming grinned. It had indeed worked. Immediately, the chilling icy blue frost, created by this telekinesis, spread from Liu Ming's body, covering not only him, but also the Kangal beast, the phantom songstress, and even the nearly corporeal heroic spirit, Kemenwen. Everyone was like being clad in a soft armor of frost. The raging heat around them was completely shielded from the frost. Yet, this once thin layer, like eternal ice, showed no sign of melting under the constant onslaught of heat waves. Encased in this searing heat, everyone even felt a chill in the face of the harsh, scorching heat. Gazing into the crater, the entire interior was a dark red. Countless magma, emitting astonishing heat, slowly flowed within the volcano, slowly forming a lava lake. Only around the lake, within a few meters of the surface, were there ledges of volcanic rock, footholds. The rest was pure lava, the entire volcano akin to a vast ocean of magma, a vast container for the molten lava. No. Liu Ming seemed to see something beyond the molten lava at the center of the lake. However, it was obscured by the thick fog and black smoke of the burning molten lava, making it difficult for him to see clearly. He gazed far ahead, and saw a small volcanic rock mass, like an island, appear in the center of the smoky lava lake. On this island, a strange crimson tree stood tall and majestic. Liu Ming's eyelids suddenly jumped. At the roots of the strange tree, layers of human-shaped bones painted the volcanic island a terrifying white. Roar. The Kangal blood beast suddenly let out a low cry, its voice uttering something, yet also concealing a deep sense of fear. Liu Ming, upon hearing the roar, seemed to suddenly understand something. Pointing thoughtfully at the pile of bones, he asked, "Is that the source of the smell?" The Kangal blood beast nodded, taking a deep look at the bones, or rather, something within them. It seemed likely that Eren's parents were buried there as well. Liu Ming silently mourned for them. The small island in the middle of the lake was only about 100 square meters, yet it was covered in thick layers of human-shaped bones, rising high. One wondered how many people had fallen and been buried in this desolate place. And in the midst of the bones, on the swaying branches of a strange little tree, faintly visible were fruits that shimmered with a fiery red glow. Standing at the crater, Liu Ming frowned. If it weren't for the sight of this small tree, shaped like fire coral, and resembling deep red crystal, he would have risked his life and personally journeyed to the island in the heart of the molten lake to investigate. But the sight of this demonic tree, so gorgeous it resembled a demon, growing amidst a pile of bones, and rooted in the heart of the molten lake, sent a chill down Liu Ming's spine. The source of the peril that had lingered in his mind lay in the very root of that strange tree. There lay a terrifying, deadly danger. But even if the danger was immense, he had to investigate today. Any results today would mean his departure was not far off. He had been in this world long enough, and while he didn't know if the little influence he had left behind had changed after such a long absence, his obsession compelled him to return. However, having decided to descend into the heart of the molten lake to investigate, he had to make the necessary preparations in advance. With adequate preparation, he would not be completely defenseless even if danger struck. As long as he could survive this time, even if he ultimately failed and gained nothing, he would still have a chance to make a comeback. It hadn't been more than 3 months since he arrived at the Night Crown ruins, and his strength had more than doubled. Given more time, he would definitely be able to navigate this kind of danger with ease. Liu Ming, surveying the narrow crater and the vast inner volcanic wall, narrowed his eyes, lost in thought. Perhaps this way, this way. A few dozen breaths passed, and when Liu Ming's army of blood beasts, following their master's aura and the mysterious connection to Liu Ming, arrived at the volcano's perimeter, he paused in thought. He already knew how to protect himself from this danger. However, the detailed plan needed to be tailored to local conditions and the circumstances. After a solemn glance at the interior of the volcano, Liu Ming gave the handsome old heroic spirit his final orders before departing. Kemenwen, you and this little fellow remain at the crater to meet me. I'll take the Kangao blood beast down to investigate. Kemenwen's face lit up with anxiety. He was no incompetent blood beast servant, but an ancient heroic spirit with rich experience. He knew full well the dangers this place posed to those of their level. Descending into the volcano would be like trying to pull chestnuts from the fire, a path to self-destruction. How could he calmly agree to such an unreasonable request from the one he was protecting? My protector, please forgive me. As if anticipating Kemenwen's disapproval, Liu Ming quickly interrupted, gagging him. Kemenwen, there's no need to say more. Nothing ventured, nothing gained. I must go this time. Your nature abilities are of little use in the volcano, and this little creature is completely incapacitated. Bringing the blue hook blood beast with you will be the only way to help me. You can only help me at the crater. Don't even think of making things worse. Liu Ming's final words were stern, shocking Kemenwen, who was still about to continue his persuasion. With that, Liu Ming clamped his legs around the beast beneath his crotch, and the blue hook blood beast, understanding his command, dove directly into the crater. Chapter 256, Lake Fruit, Lava Snake, Part 2. Once inside the volcano, the temperature soared. Forget water droplets, even ice would instantly turn to steam. Even with Liu Ming's physique, he couldn't withstand such intense heat. Fortunately, the icy blue frost, formed by his telekinesis, while roughly the same temperature as ordinary ice, was incredibly resistant to heat. Even the intense heat, comparable to a tongue of fire, licked it without a single sign of rapid melting. Otherwise, not only Liu Ming, but even the Kangao blood beast wouldn't have been able to survive such an environment for even a moment. Falling from the crater, the Kangao blood beast, using the scorching, fiery red volcanic walls as a single leap, shifted from plummeting into the molten lava lake to leaping toward the surrounding rock face. The volcano was shrouded in a searing aura, a fiery crimson blaze, that made it difficult for Liu Ming to see. However, the Kangao blood beast's vision was far superior to Liu Ming's, and it was better adapted to the conditions. Bang! The Kangao blood beast, carrying Liu Ming on its back, leaped from the nearly 100-meter high volcanic opening into the volcano. The air temperature had soared to hundreds of degrees. Liu Ming dared not breathe directly. Every breath he took was filtered and cooled by the frost. Such scorching gases could have directly burned his organs. The Kangao blood beast, however, had no such privilege. Constantly breathing in these scorching gases had left it panting and agitated. Even the telekinetic frost began to show visible signs of melting. Liu Ming had no choice but to repeatedly use his telekinesis to apply frost to both himself and the Kangao blood beast. Reaching the bottom of the volcano, Liu Ming could finally see the lava lake. It was a small lake, only about 300 meters in diameter, but its remarkable feature was that it was composed entirely of flowing, dark red, high temperature molten lava. The volcanic rock surrounding the lake, especially the part where he was now standing, burned like burning embers, glowing red from the waves of lava that constantly crashed against the cliffs. The temperature was astonishingly high. Without the protection of the telekinetic frost, Liu Ming believed his feet would be instantly cooked the moment they touched the ground. And cooked thoroughly. With sufficient telekinesis for the time being, and the volcano's instantly lethal heat having little effect on him, Liu Ming began to observe his surroundings. His primary goal was to retrieve the bodies of Eren's parents from the pile of bones on the island in the center of the molten lake, and then quickly depart. Of course, if he could pick a few fruits from the strange little tree before leaving, even the slightest risk would be acceptable. As he drew closer to the tree, Liu Ming's heartbeat intensified, almost leaping out of his chest. He was only 100 meters from the island in the center of the molten lake. Even he, with the gliding ability of his flying boots, could reach the island in a single leap, let alone the cannibal blood beast. Leaping hundreds of meters wouldn't be a difficult feat for the cannibal blood beast. However, what held Liu Ming back was the lingering palpitations and the premonition of impending danger. He had already reached the base of the volcano, and aside from the harsh environment, he hadn't encountered any significant danger. This suggests the danger must be coming from the molten lava lake, or directly from the small island of bones. This is the real reason Liu Ming has been holding back. Go, holy fire demonic puppet. Liu Ming commanded, pulling out two fist-sized white objects from his arms. This holy fire demonic puppet had also come to this world with Liu Ming from Earth, but had previously been under a barrier. It had only recently fully assimilated into the rules of this world and been released from this barrier. Blood beasts are all flesh and blood beings, and this high temperature is fatal to most flesh and blood creatures. His own telekinesis is limited, so he naturally cannot provide frost armor protection for every blood beast. Therefore, Liu Ming did not bring the entire blood beast army with him, but only the cannibal blood beast. As for the holy fire demonic puppet, it was originally derived from the fire-attributed holy fire beetle king, and had been transformed into a puppet life form with a structure and composition completely different from that of flesh and blood beings. This high temperature did not significantly affect it. However, just in case, Liu Ming added several layers of frost armor to it when he took it out. Fortunately, the holy fire demon puppet was small, so it didn't consume much of Liu Ming's mental energy. The white holy fire demon puppet, decked out in icy blue frost armor, hovered in midair, rapidly approaching the island in the center of the molten lake. Liu Ming, watching intently from the shore, watched his holy fire demon puppet explore. 50 meters, 30 meters, 10 meters. The holy fire demon puppet flew slowly, as Liu Ming had instructed. Slower flight allowed for a clearer view of the situation ahead, and the ability to turn and escape more quickly. When the holy fire demon puppet reached the island in the center of the molten lake, it instantly unleashed a beam of white flame. The beam streaked through the air, leaving a trail of white fire in the fiery red sky. The target of the flame beam was the pile of bones on the island in the center of the lake. After the line of fire passed, the island remained silent, motionless. The pile of bones had been reduced to ash by the fire. As for whether the bones contained the remains of Eren's parents, Liu Ming could do nothing. Continue the bombardment. Increase the frequency and power of your attacks. Liu Ming commanded. He believed that under the relentless bombardment of the holy fire demon puppet, the danger hidden on the island in the molten lake would inevitably be unable to contain itself and launch the first attack. Boom boom boom. Liu Ming paid no heed to the target's skeleton, most likely buried beneath the pile of bones on the island. The holy fire demon puppet's rays grew in power, each wave stronger than the last. Before long, the island had been completely plowed, countless corpses reduced to shattered pieces. Liu Ming had already prepared to piece together the shattered bones of Eren's parents and hand them in for the mission. But the palpitations in his heart didn't subside. Instead, they intensified. Without hesitation, Liu Ming relayed his command to the holy fire demon puppet, still hovering over the island, bombarding it. Attack that fire tree. Since the fire tree grew in the most conspicuous spot on the volcano, it was definitely no ordinary plant. Even if the plant itself wasn't dangerous, there were likely dangers lurking around it. Furthermore, that hidden danger wouldn't sit idly by and watch the fire tree's destruction. The holy fire demonic puppet lacked any independent consciousness, solely obeying the commands of its master, Liu Ming. An ordinary person might hesitate to attack the fire tree, a plant so obviously precious, but the holy fire demonic puppet certainly wouldn't. As soon as Liu Ming gave the attack command, the holy fire demonic puppet's honeycomb-like holes began to pour out flames. White beams of fire, swifter than a pistol, instantly streaked through the air, shooting straight towards the fire tree. Unless it was an iron tree or a demonic tree, it would surely be reduced to ash by these multiple beams. Crash. Just as the fiery beams, scorching the dust in the air, were about to strike, the mountain of bones on the lake's central island seemed to tilt, bulging in the center. Then, one by one, bones slid down the mountain. Some bones near the edge of the island even fell into the molten lava. Liu Ming's heart tightened, fearing that the remains of Eren's parents would be among those to fall into the molten lava. A corner of massive creature appeared before the flaming tree, firmly blocking the attacking beam. The flames, capable of instantly blasting through rock, vanished in a flash like a spark before this creature. Not even a trace of the behemoth remained. It was a strange dark red giant snake, even larger than his own pet, the winged claw dragon snake. Its scales clung to its body like pieces of molten lava, resembling cracked earth, yet its defenses were astonishing. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 257 Kiss of Death, Lava Trap, Part 1. At that moment, the lava snake, coiled on the island in the center of the molten lake, stared coldly at him with its deep red, almost black, eyes. Liu Ming stared at the snake, his expression grave. After awakening his telekinesis and grasping the secrets of Xitigaba, his perception of the outside world had greatly increased, reaching a formidable level. Even if a monster of the Kangal beast's caliber appeared before him again, he was confident he could discern its general strength and threat level at a glance. However, he couldn't fathom the massive, dark red snake before him, and it gave him only one feeling: palpitations. A palpitation like the prospect of imminent death. This sense of danger was several times stronger than his previous encounter with the Kangal beast. Even before the battle had even begun, Liu Ming began to harbor thoughts of retreat. The gap in strength between him and this creature was even greater than when he had just entered the ranks of evolvers and encountered a C-rank corpse witch and its minions. It was a gap so vast that defeat was impossible and even escape was a problem. He had to understand that his overall strength now far surpassed that of the Kangal blood beast. 2 second-level warriors still felt so powerless before this monstrous snake. One could only imagine its level. A 3rd-level monster. He was sea level at his peak. A being truly on the path to perfect physical evolution. Liu Ming knew that a monster of this level, let alone a mere 2nd-level evolver with a 2nd-level pet, would be an insurmountable chasm even for himself, a late 2nd-level evolver. Even if he had evolved to the late 2nd stage, he would still face an insurmountable challenge. Liu Ming had completely abandoned the thought of defeating the enemy. His only goal now was to find the skeleton and escape the volcano. As for his earlier plan, to take a few fruits from the fire tree, he had given up. The sight of the snake, which had been hiding in the skeleton and refusing to emerge, suddenly emerged to defend itself when the fire tree came under attack. It was clear how important this fire tree was to him. Liu Ming believed that, if he could attract its attention, the snake would be determined to fight him to the death. Seeing the snake poised to strike, Liu Ming shouted, "Retreat." With that command, the holy fire demon puppet swiftly retaliated, its legs flailing like a swift arm. A shockingly thick red whip struck, its shadows slashing with scorching heat and scorching winds causing it to teeter. In the nick of time, the holy fire demon puppet swooped down close to the surface of the molten lake, swooping across it and returning to Liu Ming's side on the shore. Liu Ming wasn't the least bit pleased with the holy fire demon puppet's safe return. He had anticipated the snake's attack and managed to free the demon. But that didn't mean the snake was slower than the holy fire demon puppet. In fact, it was certain the holy fire demon puppet would be unable to dodge a frontal blow from the snake. It was all due to his own foresight. His missed strike enraged the lava snake. It twisted its massive body from its perch on the island, its entire 100-meter-long body snaking out from beneath its bones. Plop. A strange snake slithered into the molten lava, a scorching heat capable of instantly softening steel and melting rock. Its head floated above the surface, its body darting through the molten lava like a sea anaconda. With astonishing speed, it swung toward Liu Ming's shore. Liu Ming breathed a sigh of relief as he saw the snake swimming toward him. The snake's massive size gave it immense vitality and strength, but also reduced its agility. If it possessed the physique of the Kangal blood beast, it could have leaped from the lake's island to the shore in a single leap, eliminating the need to swim through the lava. as the snake's head, nearly half the size of a room, reached the shore. Only a few meters away, he could already feel the surging heat of the molten lava clinging to its body. Countless clouds of muddy sand surged around Liu Ming. Because of the volcanic location, the waves of sand, whipped up by the dizzying secret technique, took on the characteristic fiery red of the volcanic environment. Red sand waves formed a wall in front of Liu Ming, defending him from the onslaught of the monster snake. Bang, bang, bang. A series of crashing sounds echoed. Full layers of Liu Ming's sand wall were instantly broken. The monster snake opened its maw, 2 rows of 6 sharp fangs protruding from its snout, biting Liu Ming. Liu Ming didn't dodge or evade, but instead leaped off the blue hook blood beast and lunged at the snake's snout. Find the source of the scent. Liu Ming mentally commanded the blue hook blood beast. His speed remained undiminished as he charged directly at the swirling snake's snout. Just as the snout reached his face, a flash of white light appeared. In a flash, Liu Ming drew forth his absolute blade, which had evolved to a 9-star grey rank through bloodshed. Xitagaba's secret technique, heavy pressure. Liu Ming held the absolute blade horizontally. The triple pressure that had previously brought the rat badger monster leader to a tragic end was instantly unleashed. Despite its unparalleled sharpness, the absolute blade was only effective against those below the 2nd level. Even a 2nd tier monster like the cannibal beast couldn't break through its defenses with a single strike, let alone a more terrifying creature like the monster snake. Just looking at its lava-covered scales, Liu Ming doubted he could block its bite with a single strike. The triple pressure instantly stalled the monster snake's ferocious attack. Countless gusts of sand swirled again, swelling around the blade, transforming the 1-meter-long Jufeng blade into a massive sword several meters long and as thick as a door panel. Boom. The monster snake's head slammed into the blade, its 6 fangs biting directly into the blade. Even though Liu Ming had gradually reduced the snake's attack force, the impact still knocked him unconscious. He nearly dropped his sword. Fortunately, he held on tightly, finally securing a firm grip on the hilt. However, even his grip was futile. The monster snake, having been tricked by Liu Ming, had already locked onto the blade in anger, refusing to let go despite his efforts. Fortunately, Jufeng possessed an indestructible quality, otherwise it would have been destroyed by the snake's kiss. The snake's kiss locked onto the blade, and Liu Ming yanked several times, but it remained unmoved. This reinforced Liu Ming's conviction that it was a level 3 monster. He immediately released the hilt and retreated. Since the monster snake couldn't shatter Jufeng anyway, why not let you bite it first? The monster's mouth opened and closed vigorously, seemingly realizing that, despite a slight discomfort, it couldn't shatter the object. It then spat out the Jufeng blade, which landed with a thud. Abandoning the attempt to destroy the Jufeng blade, the monster snake turned its attention to Liu Ming. The lava lake's shoreline was no more than 10 meters wide, making it impossible for the snake, with its 100-meter-long body, to reach shore. Consequently, the monster snake reared up in the lava lake, biting Liu Ming again and again. As for the cannibal blood beast, nearby, Liu Ming had already taken advantage of the snake's attack to leap from the shore towards the island in the center of the lake. To help the blue hook blood beast reach the lake's island, Liu Ming used every trick in his power to distract the snake's attacks. He chose not to unfurl his flame dragon wings, but instead used his gliding boots to glide through the air. He then used triple pressure and the Xitagaba's secret technique to block the snake's entanglement, narrowly avoiding its attacks time and again. Chapter 258 Kiss of Death, Lava Trap, Part 2. Amidst the crimson, blazing heat, Liu Ming trod on scorching volcanic rock. Behind him lay the crimson rock face, and before him lay a formidable lava lake. A monstrous snake of astonishing size writhes upright within the molten lava, its body whipping up waves of heat. Its massive head emerges from the waves, repeatedly pouncing on the small creature before it. However, the prey the snake sees is unlike most of its predecessors, incredibly slippery, its seemingly impressive attacks ultimately failing to reach its target. While Liu Ming appears effortless, managing to dodge any fierce attack at the last second, Liu Ming himself is not as relaxed as he appears. Even with his telekinetic cooling power, a layer of cold sweat breaks out on his back. This isn't sweat caused by the cold, it's the natural result of intense stress. Liu Ming must maintain extreme vigilance to narrowly avoid each attack. The gap between the second and third levels is now fully apparent. Liu Ming's speed was a world apart from the lava monsters. His ability to narrowly avoid attacks was entirely due to his immense mental power. The awakening and mastery of his telekinesis could be described as a spiritual rebirth and sublimation. This rebirth and sublimation significantly enhanced Liu Ming's perception and agility. While his speed was still far inferior to the lava monsters, his neural responses to external stimuli rivaled that of the level 3 monster, often surpassing it. It was precisely thanks to his superior agility and perception that Liu Ming was able to narrowly avoid attacks that would seem fatal to ordinary humans. However, this method of evasion was extremely draining of his mental energy. In a short period of time, Liu Ming's mental energy was nearly depleted, and his demeanor was utterly dejected. As a predator at the top of the food chain within the Night Crown ancient ruins, the lava monster possessed an intelligence comparable to that of an ordinary human. This, combined with the extensive combat experience accumulated over its long life, was a significant factor in Liu Ming's ability to avoid attacks. The lava snake's perception of things had become nearly human-like. It could easily discern that its prey was on the verge of exhaustion. Its eyes lit up, and the predator's attacks instantly intensified with greater ferocity, while the snake, delighted at discovering its prey's weakness, was delighted. Liu Ming couldn't be so relaxed. The monster's attacks remained the same, biting and slashing again and again, the substance unchanged. However, this time, while the attacks remained the same, their power and frequency were over 3 times greater. Previously, Liu Ming had used the yellow sand gathered by Xa to guard his power, to block the lava snake's attacks, and with his utmost strength, he was able to barely block or evade them. But now, even if Liu Ming fought many times harder, he would be no match for the monster's unbridled attack. The snake had already undergone a transformation within the volcano, as evidenced by its ability to swim calmly through the molten lava. Its perfection was evident in its high level. Its serpentine body, like a sliver of molten gold, was forged in the molten lava deep within the volcano, ultimately becoming stronger than steel and incredibly resistant to energy attacks. Liu Ming was forced to leap up and down like a monkey, dodging the lava snake's relentless bites. The giant python's bite repeatedly pierced Liu Ming's skin, and at its most ferocious, Liu Ming's hairs practically slithered across its lava-like scales. There was no clammy cold touch typical of snakes, only endless heat and a brutal aura. The bursts of fire, even the telekinetic frost, were unable to withstand, piercing through the thin layer of frost, causing Liu Ming's already tough, flame-resistant skin to feel like being pricked by needles. Even ordinary needle pricks didn't cause much pain. From the intense struggle to evade the attacks, Liu Ming was gradually losing breath. Even protected by the icy cold, he was sweating profusely. Not only was his mental strength rapidly depleting, but his physical strength was also rapidly declining. Liu Ming didn't flee, but instead, risking instant death by engaging the lava snake, entirely for the sake of the cannibal blood beast, which had successfully crossed the molten lake, and reached the island in the center. The cannibal blood beast had already leaped onto the island, and was frantically searching for the remains of the quest Liu Ming had so repeatedly instructed him to find. Because the cannibal blood beast hadn't touched the demonic tree in the center of the island, the lava snake gave it a cold glance from afar and temporarily ignored it, instead focusing its full force on the slippery Liu Ming. Finally, as Liu Ming was about to collapse, he was bruised on the back, leaving a wound running through his back. The cannibal blood beast on the other side also made a discovery. From Liu Ming's vantage point, he could see it uncovering a female corpse that hadn't completely decayed, but had shriveled in the heat, resembling a piece of charcoal. Soon after, the second corpse was unearthed. The cannibal blood beast held the 2 corpses in its mouth, watching Liu Ming from afar, as if asking what to do next. Liu Ming laughed heartily. "You beast, I'm done with you." As soon as Liu Ming finished his words, he glided towards the island in the middle of the lake. A glint of contempt flashed in the lava snake's eyes. "Want to run? I'm waiting for you." As Liu Ming glided through the air, with no foothold to change direction, the snake suddenly leaped up, its body stretching dozens of meters, aiming to bite Liu Ming in midair. Its crimson wings spread wide behind Liu Ming, accelerating rapidly, and the snake missed. But the speed of a level 3 monster was too much for the flame dragon wings to escape. Having missed its first strike, the snake lunged again, its body spanning hundreds of meters, stretching across the sky like a giant dragon. Liu Ming's expression remained unchanged. Behind him, a roar like a jet plane erupted. A wave of air exploded from nowhere. It was the thrust generated by the instantaneous explosion of Liu Ming's telekinesis. After the air waves dissipated, Liu Ming, driven by the powerful momentum, had already reached the island in the middle of the lake. Once on the island, he tried to stop, but the immense force of inertia kept him plunging forward. The Kangao blood beast, sensing the danger and its master losing control of his strength, leaped and caught Liu Ming. Liu Ming, tumbling through the mist, landed on the Kangao blood beast's broad back. The Kangao blood beast, however, caught Liu Ming not far from the demonic tree that had pierced the lava serpent's lifeline. Liu Ming glanced at the fruit hanging from the strange tree like clusters of fiery red crystals, and a moment's hesitation flashed in his eyes. Then, gritted his teeth and said, "Pick them." With that, Liu Ming reached directly for the strange tree, his target being the clusters of crimson fruit perched atop its crown. Chapter 259 Kiss of Death, Lava Trap, Part 2. Hiss. Seeing its prey not only evade its attack in the blink of an eye, but also extend its claws toward its treasure, the lava snake was completely enraged. The lava lake's island was only 100 or 200 meters from the shore. The lava snake, with a body 100 meters long, reached the island in a few swims. Waves of lava rolled along the way, nearly slamming Liu Ming down. Liu Ming ignored the enraged monster and continued to reach for the fruit. After plucking 2 clusters of crystal clear, jade-like fruits, Liu Ming was still not satisfied. He tried to tear off a large branch from the strange tree. He tugged, but it didn't budge. The lava snake was already within reach. Liu Ming's fearless innate attribute activated. He simply drew his absolute blade and slashed at the tree's trunk. The absolute blade severed the trunk near the roots. Liu Ming lifted the strange tree, taller than himself, and hurriedly urged the blue hook blood beast to flee. The lava snake saw its prey had not only escaped its pursuit, but also slashed and stole the treasure it had so carefully guarded. Nothing was left, except a root that could not be quickly removed. A fierce, gusting wind suddenly swept over. Liu Ming clutched the strange tree tightly in his arms, its clusters of fruit swaying in its crown. A shimmering crimson glow seemed to emanate from the dimly lit volcano. This glow, like a flame in the night, attracted dangerous attention. The lava snake's thick tail slapped the surface of the lava lake, sending molten lava spiraling over 10 meters high. The blue hook blood beast, using the volcanic rock wall as leverage, leaped again and again, swiftly moving towards the crater. Seeing its enemy who had stolen its treasure about to escape, the blue hook blood beast roared in anger. At a speed at least twice as fast as the Kangao blood beast, it rapidly approached it. Soon, it caught up. RIP. The monster snake bit into one of the Kangao blood beast's hind legs. 6 fangs tore a large chunk of flesh from the sturdy leg. The Kangao blood beast continued its charge toward the exit. However, a closer look revealed that the Kangao blood beast's body seemed to stiffen unnaturally after being bitten by the monster snake, clearly due to the venom in the bite. While its speed remained unchanged, its agility seemed to have decreased, and it showed clear signs of weakness. Seeing his mount bitten in the thigh made Liu Ming nervous. His escape this time depended on 2 factors, the Kangao blood beast's speed, and whether he could use the various life-saving strategies he had painstakingly devised before descending into the volcano at the right moment to save his life. The absolute blade rested at his waist. Liu Ming clung to the flaming tree tightly, refusing to let go. He felt up close the things within the tree that stirred his molten heart. His heartbeat was so rapid that he felt as if his chest would burst, his heart leaping out. These fruits were truly invaluable treasures. Their value to him was perhaps no less than when he had awakened his telekinesis. How could he possibly let go? He would abandon such a precious treasure simply to escape. Just as the strange snake pounced again, and the Kangao blood beast, despite desperately accelerating, was no match for the serpent. Facing another bite, Liu Ming embraced the flaming tree with one hand, his face flushing crimson. With a gentle stroke of his right hand, he spread his fingers and pressed down. The snake seemed stunned, and the triple pressure descended upon it once again. The snake paused in its rapid movement. Anyone experiencing triple the pressure of their surroundings in an instant would experience a sense of stagnation as they couldn't adapt. But with this mere pause, a mere breathless delay, the Kangao blood beast leaped a significant distance. Just as the monster snake closed the distance again, the Kangao blood beast, carrying Liu Ming, had already cleared the molten lake by 60 or 70 meters. A series of loud rumbling sounds echoed through the volcano, like the sound before an earthquake. The molten lake within the volcano began to stir restlessly. Waves of overwhelming molten lava surged in and out, the surface of the lake like a pool of water constantly stirred by an invisible giant. The molten lava began to swirl, eventually forming a vortex that surged towards the center. Meanwhile, a portion of the lava snake's body remained in the molten lake. Unable to fly, nor using the rock face for leverage like the Kangao blood beast, it could only rely on its massive body to pursue its prey. The powerful suction from the strangely formed molten lava vortex entangled it, as if it were trapped in a quagmire. A small portion of its body was entangled in the vortex, preventing it from freeing itself to pursue. The lava snake glared at Liu Ming, who seemed to be half smiling. It sensed that this person was behind the attack. Liu Ming thought this wasn't over yet. The stirring of the molten lake was naturally a form of Xitigabha's secret art. Xitigabha's secret art, Earthsink. Unfortunately, the molten lake was extremely stable, and even creating a vortex like the Earthsink to temporarily entangle the lava snake was a significant effort. After using the Earthsink to entangle the snake, Liu Ming's face had turned pale, and his head ached, clearly a sign of mental exhaustion. However, if you don't kill the snake, you'll suffer. Although Liu Ming knew his limitations and that killing the snake was impossible, he had to do his utmost to entangle it. He gritted his teeth again and raised his hand. Pieces of the surrounding rock began to break away, especially those already unstable due to weathering. These pieces fell and smashed into the snake. As the tremors grew stronger, more and more rock fragments hit the snake. The snake was already struggling, almost freeing itself from the molten vortex. Who could have imagined that another earthquake-like collapse of the rock wall would strike again? His body froze. Immediately, triple the pressure poured down upon the monster snake. Liu Ming spat out a mouthful of blood. The Xitigabha's secret art was barely effective against a monster of the 3rd level. His face was pale, and he was utterly weak. The blood he had just spurted out was the result of the foul blood that had built up in his throat from his repeated forceful actions. Bang, boom, boom. The Xitigabha's secret art, collapse, was like a massive landslide. The chain reaction of falling rocks didn't completely crush the thick-skinned and incredibly defensive lava snake, but it nearly buried it in the swirling, suction-generating vortex of molten lava. Finally, amid the snake's frantic hisses and hateful glare, the blue hook blood beast finally leaped out of the crater. Kameng Wen, who was waiting at the crater, quickly treated the blue hook blood beast's severely injured hind leg. From within the volcano, a deafening roar continued to echo. It was the lava snake's roar. Despite its terrifying strength, it lacked the ability to escape the massive cage of the volcano. Even if Liu Ming could escape with the help of his flying ability, land creatures like the Kangao blood beast would be unable to escape the lava snake's pursuit, and would undoubtedly perish. Chapter 260, Volcanic Furnace, On the Eve of Return, Part 1. The crater shook. Liu Ming and his companions, standing on the volcano, couldn't help but sway. Even on the mountainside and even at the foot of the mountain, the tremors were intense. The 100-meter tall snake, its body tens of stories high when erect, was now utterly mad, trapped within the volcano. The treasure it had so eagerly guarded had been coveted countless times over the ages, as evidenced by the thick pile of white bones. Those drawn to the treasure had, without exception, been reduced to piles of corpses on the island in the center of the molten lava. Yet, this creature, this weakling among the countless others who had coveted the treasure within its lair, had been the lucky one to escape and steal the treasure. The volcano's interior was, by rights, the domain of this monstrous snake, capable of swimming freely in the molten lava. Even a great knight like Aaron's father would have met his end in bitter defeat, reduced to a charred heap. Only Liu Ming had turned the tables. On what was once the lava snake's home turf, Liu Ming exerted an even greater home field advantage. Both the lava lake and the volcanic rock walls seemed to become powerful weapons in Liu Ming's hands. Liu Ming, leveraging the advantageous terrain, the Kangao blood beast's exceptional leaping ability, and his own flying abilities, ultimately avoided returning empty-handed. Compared to the snake, venting its fury furiously, Liu Ming felt a sense of ease and comfort. Looking at the two charred corpses in the Kangao blood beast's mouth and the flaming tree he still held, or, more accurately, the shimmering fruit on the tree, which flickered with light and seemed to be shedding sparks, Liu Ming felt a sense of satisfaction and joy. However, he couldn't stay here for long. Although the snake was theoretically trapped in the volcano, no one knew whether such a commotion would attract danger or create unexpected situations. The volcanic rocks all over the mountain trembled under the snake's frenzied outburst. This demonstrated the destructive power of the snake's fury. At this rate, Liu Ming wouldn't be surprised to think it could demolish this mountain, which was only about 200 meters high. Liu Ming repeatedly urged the blue hook blood beast to speed up, leading the army of blood beasts waiting outside the volcano's perimeter as they swiftly retreated. Still, the blue hook blood beast galloped ahead with unwavering confidence, unconcerned about the other blood beasts catching up. The vast dark army of blood beasts behind it was even more imposing. All the dangerous creatures encountered along the way retreated. Only when they reached the edge of the ruins containing the floating volcano did Liu Ming command the blue hook blood beast to halt. Mission accomplished. It was time to return. Beyond the ruins, however, threats rivaled those of the lava serpent. Liu Ming was no match for the great knights, at least those comparable to level 3 evolvers. For example, Aaron's father, Liu Ming, considered himself no match. The renowned Great Knight of Jerry was defeated solely due to the disadvantage of playing away against the lava serpent. Liu Ming, on the other hand, escaped by exploiting the favorable conditions that favored the serpent. This didn't mean Liu Ming's strength could rival that of the Great Knight. Aaron's parents would rather fight the lava snake in the volcano than give up the fruit from the fire tree. Clearly, this was a rare and precious treasure. Revealing it to the world would only lead to endless trouble. Liu Ming decided to consume it immediately. No matter how good a thing was, it was worthless if he couldn't benefit from it. Everyone understands the saying that 10 birds in the bush are worth a bird in the hand. Liu Ming flipped over and jumped off the back of the Kangao blood beast. He sat cross-legged among the ruins, placing the 2 or 3 meter tall fire tree horizontally in front of him. Liu Ming first plucked a fruit from the 2 bunches he had just broken off, and without even wiping it, he popped it into his mouth. The fact that the lava heart was so eager for this thing proved it had no harm to him. The fruit was as hard as stone, impossible to chew. Without thinking about anything else, Liu Ming swallowed it whole. The first fruit, as translucent as fiery red crystal and shimmering like fire jade, emptied into his stomach. Like a spark in a gunpowder barrel, the power of the lava heart instantly ignited. Countless streams of heat surged from the heart, coating the fire tree fruit in layers. The mysterious fire energy, once nearly fused with Liu Ming's heart, gradually sloughed away. Like moths to a flame, birds to a phoenix, they all flocked to this strange, yet still unidentified fruit. The fruit's hard shell gradually softened, inch by inch, as the fire energy melted away. The shell itself melted rapidly. The fruit, once the size of a quail egg, was reduced to a fingertip-sized mass of viscous liquid, resembling molten lava. The melted shell transformed into a small mass of boiling liquid, flowing in the direction of the energy's origin into Liu Ming's heart. The emptiness Liu Ming had felt after the lava heart's energy was stripped away was instantly replenished. Threads of deep red viscous energy flowed through the chambers of his heart, forming a complex network of crimson threads. Just as the liquid from the melted fruit shell was consumed, the network formed, wrapping around a small corner of his heart. The sticky, incredibly hot energy began to surge toward his heart. Liu Ming felt a terrifyingly hot flame roaming through his limbs, causing him to feel an intense burning pain. The excruciating pain horrified him. He had a premonition that, if he couldn't resist, the fire would literally incinerate him. He gritted his teeth and fought back, biting the corners of his mouth until blood oozed. Finally, the pain receded like a tide. Liu Ming sent out his senses and saw that the flames had formed a shimmering red network of veins at the upper left corner of his heart, resembling a crystal mesh. He felt a burning heat permeating his entire body. This heat made him want to vent, but he didn't know how. Finally, Liu Ming instinctively opened his mouth, and the flames came out as a burp. Boom. A thick, dark red flame, as thick as an adult's thigh, erupted from Liu Ming's mouth. The flames spread 10 meters before reluctantly extinguishing. A rocky wall took the brunt of the damage, collapsing with a resounding explosion. The ground was littered with rubble, scorched and even slightly melted where the pillar of fire had struck it directly. Liu Ming was stunned. He hadn't expected a single burp to have such power. The lava heart's flaming breath ability, at best, could only spit out a tongue of fire. Now, he had become a fire god, unleashing a pillar of fire with a blazing attack even more formidable than that of a holy fire demon golem. However, the surprises went far beyond that. Using his 6th dimensional perception, Liu Ming discovered that his yuan qi, which had remained dormant for a long time, was actually approaching the pinnacle of B level. Since reaching B level, his yuan qi had only risen slightly over the past several months. Now, after consuming a strange fire tree fruit, his yuan qi, fueled by its fire energy, had skyrocketed. How could he not be astonished? The most significant change was the yuan qi's unholy fire properties. The ash fire's original dark grey hue darkened, becoming even more obscure. Yet, within this obscurity, a frightening, tyrannical aura lurked. Without further ado, Liu Ming plucked another fire tree fruit and swallowed it whole. He had only swallowed one fruit to witness such a transformation. Furthermore, this fruit had only completed less than 1/10 of the vast crystalline web of infernal threads on his heart, leaving much room for improvement. He had a hunch that, if the web of infernal threads on his heart were fully formed, his strength would surge once again. This time, the magnitude of the increase would likely rival the astonishing growth from awakening his telekinesis. Chapter 261, Volcanic Furnace, On the Eve of Return, Part 2. The second, the third, the fourth, until Liu Ming had devoured the 2 bunches of fire tree fruit in his hand, along with 80 to 90% of the fruit from the entire fire tree. The crystal clear, crystalline threads entwined around his heart finally enveloped it. Now, Liu Ming's heart, more than just flesh and blood, possessed a crystalline quality. Densely interwoven, the heart resembled a vast web, holding it together as a single, organic whole. Viewed as a whole, the heart resembled a fiery furnace within the chest cavity. Its form had shed its former flesh and blood form. It resembled a deep, fiery crimson, a crystalline furnace, translucent throughout. Liu Ming's body, beating powerfully within the furnace, was like a weapon being hammered and tempered within the furnace, its impurities constantly being purged. Even the toxins left behind from practicing hordes poison technique were expelled by the furnace's repeated hammering, like a sword forging its way through the forge. The poisonous lines all over his body vanished, leaving behind a layer of dark dust. It was the toxins squeezed out of his pores, then reduced to ash by the heat, the last remaining impurities. Vanishing with it was the poisonous bite, a killer move that had so impressed Liu Ming. Before Liu Ming could even lament the loss of his ultimate weapon, he was overwhelmed by the immense joy that followed. Although the core toxins of Howard's poison technique had been expelled as harmful substances during the refinement of the heart furnace, his previously forged formidable physique remained undiminished. In fact, it far surpassed them. While his strength and stamina were previously comparable to those of a tier 2 melee fighter, the rapid increase in power had left a fundamentally unstable foundation. He felt a sense of weakness, like a loft in the sky. He had inherent flaws in his ability to harness his strength, lacking stamina and unable to fully unleash his full potential. Now, after being tempered by the furnace, he felt like a rusted sword being reforged, emerging from the furnace as brand new, a razor-sharp blade. Even now, he felt no less powerful than a second-tier pure strength warrior, and his stamina was endless, as if he were sustained by an infinite force. Liu Ming knew it wasn't an illusion. The miraculous energy constantly expelled from the furnace mingled with his blood, continuously transporting it to every part of his body, every limb. This energy had once been unbearably hot, but now that the transformation was complete, the sensation had become normal. He felt only a warmth, like a trickle of water constantly irrigating his body. His body was constantly strengthened by this irrigating flow. Furthermore, this irrigating flow washed away any impurities within Liu Ming's body that were difficult to absorb, and then smelted again into new energy, forming a nearly perfect cycle. Liu Ming's skin now had an unusual luster. A closer look revealed a glowing red, resembling fire patterns, shimmering beneath his skin. These were traces of the furnace's energy. Liu Ming called them flame marks. These hidden flame patterns within his skin significantly increased Liu Ming's physical strength and explosive power. His explosive power now approached that of the Kangao blood beast. He was now like a true human volcano. If his full power were unlocked, the destructive power would be as devastating as a volcanic eruption. Since it's derived from a volcano and shaped like a furnace, let's call it the volcano furnace. Clenching his fists, Liu Ming felt a surge of excitement as he felt the unprecedented power. He immediately named the furnace transformed from his heart his newfound ability, the volcano furnace. With the formation of the volcano furnace, Liu Ming's yuan qi, fueled by the immense flame energy, rose to a level. This was after most of the energy from the melted fruits had gone into the volcano furnace, leaving only a negligible amount of firepower to fuel the evolution of his yuan qi. Liu Ming stood up, looking at the fire tree, with less than 10 fruits remaining in his hand, feeling a sense of helplessness. Just now, there were several large clusters of nearly 100 fruits on top. After swallowing them all, there weren't many left. He had a vague feeling that these fruits might also have an amazing effect on his dragon pet. Thinking of Sumi, Jizerong, and Arfei, whom he hadn't seen for over 6 months, he only left a few. Otherwise he would have consumed them all at once. Even if the volcanic furnace was successfully constructed, the extra fruit energy could be fully utilized to boost his yuan qi. These 9 fruits should easily push King Ming yuan qi to the peak of SS level or even SSS level, but breaking through to the second level would be more challenging. The gap between the first and second levels is a huge hurdle, and it can't be overcome with simple external means. After plucking the 9 magical fire tree fruits, Liu Ming summoned the flying blood beast and began his journey home. As for why he plucked the fruits directly without worrying about their effects being compromised, Liu Ming was certain that the hard shell would ensure the fruit's effectiveness would remain intact for a long time after being picked. In other words, it was a natural protective barrier. Just arrived at the primeval forest beneath the ruins of the Night Crown ancient ruins, Liu Ming couldn't help but be absent-minded. Compared to the unusually cold weather in the ruins, the climate outside the ruins has warmed up. Liu Ming couldn't help but think of when he first stepped into the ruins. He was just a pseudo-senior knight whose strength was close to that of Wolf Sword. This time, he has mastered the power to compete with ordinary top knights. As for the famous guardian of the Night Fortress, Wolf Sword, he is confident that he can defeat him with just one sword without the need for a blood beast. It's time to leave. Although the weather has warmed up, it was early morning when Liu Ming came down, and it was the time of spring chill. In the cold morning dew, Liu Ming exhaled a breath of Bakey lightly and murmured with a somewhat lonely expression, "It's time to leave." With that, he decided not to return to the Dark Forest forward base to see his old friend. After all, he was only a passing visitor to this world, leaving no need for unnecessary traces. Instead, he headed directly for the important town of Jerry, just outside the Dark Forest. Crossing the Dark Forest had taken him the better part of a day, and without the Warframe team leading the way, he would have been unable to traverse this treacherous jungle. Meanwhile, Liu Ming had exited the Dark Forest in less than half an hour. The Kangao blood beast rampaged through the land, followed by the blood beasts, acting with unbridled abandon. No creature dared to stand against this ferocious beast and its horde. Arriving at the familiar station platform, Liu Ming glanced at it casually before departing without stopping. With his blood beast army, he had managed to escape danger several times in such dire straits as the ruins. Navigating the Dark Forest and the wilderness beyond the city was even easier, a breeze. Therefore, he didn't even want to wait for the steam train that only ran daily at noon and dusk, intending to lead his blood beast army through the wilderness back to the Half Mountain Manor. Chapter 262 Extra Reward, Sweeping Secret Method. Sir, is that you? In a magnificent house, perched on Rose Hill, overlooking the entire city, Miss Ahrens, the nominal current owner of the Cavill Hillside Manor, stood respectfully behind a stranger who had suddenly appeared inside, and asked uncertainly. The stranger turned, revealing Liu Ming's bearded face. His tone remained icy as he said, "Long time no see, summoner." Ahrens had encountered Liu Ming several times before, and knew his temper well. He also knew that this warrior, whom he had summoned with such a fuss, would never visit without a reason. Glancing at the large bag Liu Ming was carrying, he seemed to sense something, and with a mixture of anticipation and apprehension, he asked, "Sir, what brings you here this time? I wonder if you found anything in the ruins?" Liu Ming sighed as he watched Ahrens' expression. As the saying goes, the greater the expectations, the greater the disappointment. He wondered what this girl's expression would be when she learned her parents had been reduced to charred corpses. Whether the other party could confirm that the two bodies were indeed his parents was none of Liu Ming's business. The scent of the two bodies matched the remains of Ahrens' parents. Furthermore, each charred body bore a ring symbolizing the Banshan Manor, bearing the Cavill family crest, etched on its finger bones. As long as Ahrens wasn't deliberately denying his debt, confirming the body's true identities would be straightforward. Liu Ming simply opened the bag and held it toward Ahrens. Ahrens' eyes darkened at the sight of the dark, human-shaped object within. Disregarding aristocratic etiquette, she snatched the bag and revealed its contents. The sight was met with a dizzying sensation, as if struck by lightning, nearly causing her to faint. The moment she caught sight of the two crested rings, she knew the outcome. He would never mistake these two heirloom rings, crafted from star sand silver. Star sand silver was a priceless treasure, and his family alone in the entire town of Jerry possessed two ancestral rings crafted from this material, even for scholars. The two blackened, charred corpses were undoubtedly her long missing parents. Despite the harsh reality, the trials and tribulations of the past year, since her parents' disappearance had transformed her into a much more naive girl. Fighting back the dizziness, she held onto the wall of the house and respectfully addressed Liu Ming. "Thank you, sir, for giving me an explanation and a result, and for fulfilling my wish. Your mission is complete. I'll give you the things now. Please follow me." Ahrens' words surprised Liu Ming. He knew Ahrens' current predicament was dire. Several high-ranking knights of Cavill Manor were vying for power, leaving her a puppet at their mercy. Most people in such a situation would cling to any possible lifeline, and the employment relationship between Liu Ming and Ahrens was undoubtedly that lifeline. Although Liu Ming's mission was limited to finding Ahrens' parents, and included no other requirements, even if Ahrens pressed his demands, Liu Ming had anticipated them. He had even prepared for such a scenario, and had a plan and response. But he hadn't expected this girl to simply conclude that Liu Ming had completed his mission. A moment later, Liu Ming emerged from the Cavill Manor. 3 long wooden boxes appeared in his arms. 2 of them contained 2 training secrets. That's right, 2. Ahrens' father's great knight training secret and her mother's top archer training secret, both of which she had given to Liu Ming as quest rewards. Of course, both were rubbings. However, after carefully comparing the rubbings with the originals, Liu Ming confirmed that the contents were identical. The third box quietly held 10 azure crystal cards. These crystal cards represented savings crystal cards issued by Genting Bank, Genting Oasis's most prestigious bank. Each card had a face value of 100,000 Genting coins. 10 cards equaled 1 million Genting coins, or 1 billion grey coins. This was a considerable fortune, even for the Cavill family. Liu Ming was quite surprised and excited to receive this bounty. He had worked at the Night Fortress for 6 months, and all he had earned was only tens of thousands of Genting coins. Now, it was 1 million. Although he was about to leave this world, he couldn't let this treasure go to waste. His magical camera hadn't been brought back to this world, so most of his belongings couldn't be taken back. The only thing he could bring back, in unlimited quantities, was knowledge. And the most precious knowledge in this world was undoubtedly the secrets of the various professions. Liu Ming, having practiced the secrets of this world, was certain of this. Therefore, upon leaving Kuel Manor, he headed straight for the only place in Jerrytown where secrets were clearly listed for sale, the Scholar's Castle in Jerrytown. Indeed, in this world, only scholars had the right to sell advanced secret knowledge. Basic secrets like Howard's poisoning technique were exempt from this rule. Meanwhile, the intermediate secret technique, Rock Heavy Fist, was banned in Jerrytown and other major cities. It was only in remote, lawless places like the Wilderness Forward Base that it could be traded without restriction. Liu Ming had never been to the Scholar's Castle, but he knew it was located in the very heart of the town. So he headed straight for the city center. Sure enough, a castle, not the tallest, yet towering, like a colossal beast resting in its maw, stood before him. Liu Ming, at a glance, could tell it covered an area no less than the combined area of several comprehensive university campuses on Earth. It was surrounded by towering walls, and a cable-stayed bridge, large enough for 4 carriages, spanned the city gates and the main street outside, allowing access to no one. Liu Ming knew that the Scholar's Castle consisted of an inner city and an outer city. The inner city was where the few scholars lived and conducted their experiments, while the outer city housed the bustling commercial district of Jerrytown. Every item within was priceless, which was the real reason Liu Ming had never been there before. The goods were simply too expensive for him to afford. Even if he had a billion grey coins, he probably wouldn't have made a splash in this den of money. Target: the various secret techniques. Liu Ming's goal was clear. After confirming his hunter identity and considerable wealth with the guards, he was immediately granted access. Upon entering the outer city, he began by visiting the first shop selling secret techniques. He would naturally cultivate the Great Knight bloodline training techniques of Eren's father, but he hadn't forgotten his numerous subordinates. It was unclear whether they were still around, and even if they were, how much had changed. But Liu Ming, always a believer in preparedness, naturally didn't mind spending the wealth he had painstakingly acquired over the past 6 months to acquire something useful. Furthermore, the techniques he scooped up were all intermediate techniques, at least at the level of the Stone Heavy Rock Fist. He collected tomes of hunter and knight secret techniques, one by one. Meanwhile, his billion-dollar fortune was rapidly dwindling. Even the Stone Heavy Rock Fist cost Liu Ming 40,000 Azure, or 40 million grey coins. When Liu Ming came out of the outer city of the Scholar Castle, he had dozens of secret books in his arms, and one of the 3 boxes given by Eren's was empty. Chapter 263 Mission completed. Liu Ming returns. Outside the important town of Jerry, in a secluded valley, Liu Ming sat motionless atop the Kangal blood beast. He had no idea what the outcome would be when he activated his mercenary certificate, nor did he know how many other blood beasts, besides himself, he could bring back to Earth through the space-time tunnel. So, he resorted to the most rudimentary method: simply sit atop the Kangal blood beast, hoping to at least take his strongest blood beast with him. If everything went as he expected, and the time gap between Earth and this world wasn't too great, then according to normal timelines, even the most rapidly evolving and powerful individuals on Earth would only have reached the 2nd stage. Bringing the Kangal blood beast back would undoubtedly be a formidable weapon. Mission accomplished. Dimensional mercenary Liu Ming requests to return. Liu Ming shouted to the mysterious being. Mercenary Liu Ming's mission is 100% complete. Mission fulfilled. Return commenced. Searching for the returned space-time imprint has begun. The space-time beacon has been located. The space-time tunnel has been anchored, and the mercenary is returning. Just as he had arrived, a dark, lightless, and silent tunnel took shape. Just as Liu Ming was about to command his Kangal blood beast to leap into the mid-air tunnel, urging his army of blood beasts to join him, the tunnel behind him suddenly closed. The first blood beast that, under his command, attempted to enter the tunnel was instantly crushed to dust by the void force of space-time. Then, like a puff of dust, it silently vanished. The sight filled Liu Ming with horror. It seems this tunnel is only accessible to those with special powers. Anyone else who attempts to force their way in will surely die. He had no idea why the Kangal blood beast had been able to enter with him. He could only tentatively assume that it was because of his direct contact with it, being considered part of his possession, that it had been granted access. When Liu Ming emerged from the tunnel with the cannibal blood beast at his helm, he was surprised to find himself not where he had left, but in a vast wilderness. Could it be that the so-called spacetime beacon was inaccurate, teleporting him to another region? Liu Ming's face was filled with melancholy. He only hoped this was Earth's spacetime. The next second, a wandering cannibal appeared 100 meters away. Its face was hideous, yet in Liu Ming's eyes, it looked incredibly friendly. This completely dispelled Liu Ming's doubts. It seemed that, even if this wasn't his gathering place, or even within Wuling City, it was still Earth. With time, he could return sooner or later. It wasn't like being in another world entirely, with no other choice, but to rely on that unreliable mercenary certificate. Looking at the cannibal 100 meters away, Liu Ming narrowed his eyes and pondered. At that moment, the cannibal's data surfaced in his mind. His long-lost ability of insight reappeared. Insight species, mutated cannibal level 1 C abilities, claws, bone armor description, bloodthirsty and ferocious, with extremely strong vitality, relatively low risk, specializing in attacks using sharp claws and fangs. What a familiar yet strange feeling. Liu Ming muttered to himself with comfort. Honestly, after years of constant use of his insight, he had become somewhat dependent on it. Having been away from Earth for over 6 months, without using his perception ability at all, his reliance on it had decreased significantly. Now, Liu Ming could judge the general threat of his enemies solely through his mental perception, relying far less on perception than most evolutionists. As the first living creature to greet him upon his return to Earth, Liu Ming decided to spare the C-rank mutant. He instructed the cannibal blood beast to depart, intending to find a human settlement, to determine his location and find his way back. However, the mutant clearly refused to let go of its hard-won prey. The creatures of the wilderness were growing stronger, and this mutant, once a dominant force in the city, had long been starving. Seeing Liu Ming's familiar human face, the image of a human representing food, was a source of excitement for the cannibal. Like a wild dog on the loose, the mutant leaped at Liu Ming with all its limbs, a ferocious beast. Bang! When it was still more than 10 meters away from Liu Ming, the mutant slammed into a wall of steel like a high-speed train. First, its head, then its neck, then its torso and limbs, all twisted and distorted. It was flung dozens of meters away, its brain splattered, and it collapsed to the ground, its body twisted and distorted. Yet, the mutant's vitality was astonishing. It hadn't died yet. Instead, it looked with fear at the creature it had mistaken for food. Liu Ming's mouth twitched. So much time had passed, all life had evolved rapidly, yet ordinary mutant cannibals remained so foolish. Do I look so easy to mess with? Liu Ming asked, stroking his bearded chin, and patting the cannibal blood beast's head. As it galloped, the cannibal blood beast tilted its massive head slightly, to glance at its master, shuddered, and shook its head in denial. It wasn't known how long it had passed, but Liu Ming's hunger had begun to grow. Finally, he encountered survivors besides the monsters. This was a typical wilderness search party. The search consisted of 2 modified off-road vehicles and a trailer-mounted heavy-duty truck. The off-road vehicles drove around the trucks, one in front and one behind. The roofs of both vehicles had been modified and widened, and 2 burly men stood atop them, each holding a submachine gun, and keeping a vigilant eye on the surroundings. The 3 vehicles moved in a straight line along the narrow road. Seeing the clear Xiang XXXXX on the license plates of the 3 vehicles, Liu Ming felt relieved. These weren't Wuling City plates, but rather those of a neighboring prefecture-level city. This meant he wasn't far from Wuling. However, he wasn't familiar with the surrounding area or the route back to Wuling, so Liu Ming decided to show up and get the information he needed from these guys. Li Cheng, the leader of the search team, was a well-known professional in the Huaiyuan city safety zone, and he was in a good mood today. Thanks to a high-priced lead, he had found a number of rare supplies in an area considered abandoned by most search teams. If he could successfully return to the safe zone, this search would not only be worth a staggeringly high fuel price, but he could also make a small fortune. It would be enough for him and his entire team to enjoy a leisurely 3 or 2 months in the safe zone, free from the constant fear and risk of fighting in the wilderness. Just as he was contemplating the delights of returning to the safe zone, a sudden, massive figure made him shudder, jolting him awake. What the hell? What's that? He heard the screams of the team members driving and guarding the car roof. Suddenly, from the hillside beside the road, a monster as tall as a story, its tail as thick as a steel column, leaped out. Based on Li Cheng's experience of no less than 30 monster battles, the saying that size determines strength, while not entirely accurate, is pretty much true. Especially for a C-rank evolutionary like him, monster size and strength don't vary greatly. But the behemoth before him, simply by its size, made it completely impossible for him to handle, requiring instant destruction. His heart sank, his heart sinking. Damn, it's true that happiness turns to sorrow. It seems that I'm going to be in trouble this time. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 264. Just as Liu Ming was watching with fascination the survivors before him, trembling like sieves at his sudden appearance, or, more accurately, at the Kangao blood beast he was riding, Li Cheng, inside the SUV, forced composure and ordered his deputy, have Skinny Monkey, the rear guard, and Old Zeng in the truck reverse immediately. Quickly. Li Cheng knew that, even though the road was a two-way street, with heavy trucks blocking the way, the time it would take to reverse would be enough to kill him several times. A man in the back seat, with triangular eyes and a scar on his face, looked fierce and fierce. He immediately picked up an object resembling a black box, and shouted into the tiny holes on it, "Skinny Monkey, something's happening. Reverse immediately. I repeat, immediately." Before he could finish his words, his voice rose like a duck being strangled, his eyes widening as he stared forward, looking rather comical. A beast's leg, as thick as a concrete pillar supporting a building, whipped up a gust of wind and barreled towards the SUV with lightning speed. Everyone in the car had no time to react. The moment the beast's foot struck, Li Cheng's forced composure collapsed, his face aghast. It wasn't until the overwhelming force of the beast's foot came crashing down that he realized how naive his attempt to escape had been. The aura of the blocking monster erupted at that moment. He had only once, by chance, felt this immense aura from a great titan in the Huaiyuan safe zone who had unlocked the second divine gene chain. Facing a titan of this magnitude, his C-rank evolver strength, combined with the entire search team's light and heavy firepower, and over a dozen evolvers, ultimately resulted in indiscriminate slaughter. The difference was utterly drastic, a world of difference. Just as everyone thought the monster attack was imminent, a moment of dread and despair, a gruff voice echoed. "Where else are you trying to go? Am I that scary?" Everyone looked up in astonishment. From behind the blood-red beast's massive head, beneath its dense, long mane, emerged a powerful, bearded figure with muscular build. Li Cheng finally breathed a sigh of relief. His heart, which had nearly leaped from his chest during the series of shocking events, finally calmed down. He thought to himself that the bearded man's brow held no hint of ferocity or hostility. Instead, he regarded them with a cold, indifferent gaze. Beside Liu Ming's body, a blazing fire tree clung to him like a precious treasure, a rather comical sight. Yet, no one dared to utter a single word for this ridiculous man. No one could guarantee that, if they made a move, the mountain-like beast's foot wouldn't bear down like thunder. After a while, Liu Ming, looking at the panicked, stunned people, finally said, "Don't be alarmed. I'm just passing by and have something to ask you." He gestured for the Kangao blood beast to remove its front hoof from the car roof. Everyone was relieved, but seeing the roof, now warped and dented, a large dent had formed. They couldn't help but grumble. "Is that how you ask questions?" But no one dared to speak, fearing disaster. Finally, only Li Cheng, the leader, steeled himself and asked, "What do you want to ask, sir?" "We will tell you everything we know." Liu Ming asked the question that concerned him most. "What date is it now?" Liu Ming was genuinely worried that the legendary story of the man who lost his chess skills would apply to him. Upon returning to Wuling, he found the vastness of time beyond his comprehension. His old friends, not to mention their bones, were all now very old. Today is July 13th, year 1 of the new era. Li Cheng, still wondering what he was being asked, answered without hesitation, displaying a resolute demeanor. Liu Ming finally felt relieved upon hearing this. The new era calendar was established after the apocalypse, when new communication tools became prevalent, allowing the isolated cities to connect with each other. The first year of the new era calendar marked the beginning of the apocalypse, and January 1st of the new era calendar marked the day of the apocalypse. Seeing Li Cheng pounding his chest again, Liu Ming burst into laughter and continued, "Where is this place?" "This is on the county road near Yanggu town, 30 kilometers from Huaiyuan city." "How far is it from Wuling?" 70 or 80 kilometers. "How do you get there?" "Go northwest along County Road 403, and you'll reach the outskirts of Wuling." Another silence. Liu Ming had been to Huaiyuan before, but couldn't place Yanggu town for the moment, and was lost in thought. Li Cheng's heart skipped a beat as the bearded man before him fell silent. He quickly pulled a roll of blueprints from the car, offering it as if it were a treasure. He then trotted over to Liu Ming, intending to hand him the blueprints. Seeing a stranger approach, the Kangal blood beast lowered its head and roared fiercely, sending a gust of sound and saliva spurting out, a fierce wind threatening to blow Li Cheng away. Li Cheng, terrified, dared not move an inch. The Kangal blood beast found it amusing, and tried to roar again. Liu Ming gently patted his mount, jokingly scolding it with a fool, and stopped it. Seeing the beast no longer targeting him, Li Cheng trotted forward and said, "Sir, this is a map drawn up by our Huaiyuan safety zone. It has the route to Wuling marked on it. I'll show you." Liu Ming's mouth twitched, feeling that this man was understanding. He then jumped off the blood beast's back and approached Li Cheng. Li Cheng was a towering figure, towering over the average height Liu Ming. He lowered his head and hunched over, not even daring to look up at Liu Ming. "Give it to me." Li Cheng quickly handed over the blueprint, taking the opportunity to take a look at the powerful man riding the terrifying beast. He had an ordinary unkempt appearance, a full beard, sharp, penetrating eyes, an incredibly strong physique, and a murderous aura. The scarlet cape he wore, and the leather-sheathed long sword slung at his waist betrayed his superiority. This man was undoubtedly a figure no less powerful than the giants of the safe zone. Li Cheng judged this in his heart. He trusted his own judgment. At the beginning of the apocalypse, he was just an ordinary survivor, a laborer conscripted by the military and government to build the safe zone's fortifications. It was thanks to this insight that he had befriended Zhao King, once a fellow laborer, now the leader of his own faction. Even when he was still a humble figure, he followed his lead, leading to his current position as the leader of a convoy and search team. Of course, whether this glorious period would ever come to an end depended on whether the great god before him could be satisfied. Even his own boss would probably tremble in fear before this great god, no better than himself. There were no more than 10 such powerful figures in the entire Huaiyuan safe zone. In the past, he had never had the opportunity to even glance at them from afar, let alone speak to them face to face. "Are you from the Huaiyuan safe zone?" Liu Ming asked casually, glancing at the map, and having a rough idea of the route back to Wuling. "Yes, sir. It's no exaggeration to say that our Huaiyuan safe zone is the largest concentration of survivors within a radius of nearly 100 kilometers. And because, during peacetime, a provincial arsenal directly under the provincial military region was established in Huaiyuan, our military and political authorities, through the arsenal's continuous production of various weapons, quickly seized control of the situation and saved tens of thousands of survivors." Li Cheng, assuming the terrifying man before him was interested in his own safe zone, immediately shared the common sense information he knew without waiting for Liu Ming's instructions. Although Liu Ming had not thought of asking this specifically, since he could learn more about the changes in the situation in the past few months, he was happy to listen patiently to what Li Cheng had to say. Chapter 265, Original Strange Object, Blue and White Merchant Group. Liu Ming was naturally familiar with the Huaiyuan safety zone Li Cheng had mentioned. As one of the largest safety zones closest to Wuling, the Huaiyuan safety zone was built on the main urban area of Huaiyuan City. Furthermore, as a transportation hub in the southwest, Huaiyuan's economy and population far surpassed Wuling's in peacetime. The local garrison and armed forces were also larger than Wuling's. Therefore, At the beginning of the apocalypse, the Huayuan military and political authorities far outpaced Wuling in consolidating and protecting its remaining forces, while various factions in the Wuling region, with the exception of the Eastern Safety Zone, were still fighting independently and acting as local tyrants in their own enclaves. Huayuan had already completely consolidated its power across the city, destroying all resistant and riot groups. Over 50% of Huayuan's urban area had been evacuated and incorporated into the safety zone, which now boasted a population of nearly 1 million, nearly 2/3 of Huayuan City's peacetime resident population. Even the several counties and cities under Huayuan's jurisdiction, with the exception of the Lingjiang city base, all converged on the Huayuan safety zone. The military and political authorities were more inclined to emulate the security war zone of the Xiangnan provincial capital and establish a larger security zone. As far as he could remember, Wuling didn't truly establish the Wuling security zone until 5 years into the new era, putting Huayuan several years ahead of Wuling. After some questioning, Liu Ming had obtained all the common information he sought. He was about to bid farewell to the group, who, with the exception of the leader, were all frozen in fear. Just as he was activating his Kangal blood beast and preparing to follow the convoy's path towards Wuling, a strange odor emanated from the cabin of a passing heavy truck. Liu Ming immediately stopped his beast and looked towards the vehicle in surprise. The convoy, which was about to resume its journey, froze in its tracks upon seeing Liu Ming stop. Even the vehicles that had just started their engines were instantly shut down. Liu Ming caught a whiff of a strange yet familiar scent. If my memory serves me correctly, it's time for rare primordial essence items to appear in larger numbers. These rare primordial essence items are treasures coveted by anyone embarking on the path of primordial key cultivation. They are nourishing resources that accelerate cultivation progress. After breaking the second genetic chain and entering the second stage of primordial key cultivation, practitioners begin to master essential element, known as primordial essence element. The purity requirements for absorbed primordial key at this stage rise dramatically. Ordinary cultivation will reduce the rapid pace of primordial key cultivation during the first stage of the primordial energy transition to a snail's pace. Only rare primordial essence items containing pure primordial essence can meet the needs of practitioners. These treasures, imbued with primordial essence that can be directly absorbed, are known as rare primordial essence items. Of course, these rare primordial essence items aren't limited to primordial key practitioners at the second stage and above. Even first stage practitioners can consume them. It's just that the rare primordial essence items suitable for first stage practitioners contain less and purer primordial essence, which is less harmful. Open the car door. Liu Ming turned toward the leader of the convoy and ordered bluntly. Li Cheng's expression changed upon hearing this. His face was one of bereavement, yet he dared not raise a single ounce of resistance. Under threat of death, he led his men to open the train compartment door and invited Liu Ming inside. Liu Ming leaped from the Kangal blood beast's back, entered the compartment, and began searching for his target. Primal rare items are also categorized by grade. In Liu Ming's experience, the items in this train weren't considered high grade. However, they were exceptionally unique and priceless. While the precise classification of primal rare items might not yet be established, Liu Ming knew it well. Primal rare items aren't created through divine grace earned through altar sacrifices, they grow entirely in the wild. However, humans still categorize primal rare items by the color of the altar. From the lowest grade, they are classified as gray, white, and finally purple. Each grade of primal rare item is further divided into 6 levels: secondary, primary, intermediate, advanced, top, and super. After a while, Liu Ming, clutching several emerald green fruits in his hands, was stunned. I didn't expect these to be Kinglo fruits. Normally, Kinglo fruit is merely a medium to high grade gray grade botanical rare commodity. It's not particularly valuable. But the most precious aspect of this rare commodity is precisely that it's not only rare, but also incredibly abundant, and can be cultivated on a large scale. As far as he could remember, Kinglo fruit was a staple of the Qinghua merchant group in the Huayuan safety zone. Are you from the Qinghua merchant group? Liu Ming asked Li Cheng, who was still standing respectfully by the carriage door, waiting for him to finish searching. Li Cheng was somewhat surprised, wondering how this deity could know the location of his own small, if only slightly renowned, team. How did you know? Yes, sir, I'm the captain of the 6th search team of the King Hua Merchant Group, under the Huayu and Safety Zones Resources Department. Li Cheng, puzzled by Liu Ming's question, hesitated for a few seconds before answering. Liu Ming pursed his lips, not intending to reply. He thought to himself, not only do I know about your King Hua Merchant Guild, which made a fortune selling artificially cultivated King Luo fruit, but I also know that its founders are Zhao Qingyu and Wu Xuanhua. The Huayan Security Zone's regulation of civilian organizations is far stricter than the Wuling Security Zones. Therefore, unlike the diverse Wuling community, most organizations here are forced to exist as merchant guilds, the only ones permitted by the military and government. This includes Li Cheng's King Hua Merchant Guild. The name King Hua is derived from a single character in the names of the 2 founders of the guild. Liu Ming knew this, because the King Hua Merchant Guild's King Luo fruit production in later generations was so large that it not only satisfied the Huayan Security Zone, but also reached the Wuling region and even the counties and cities in the Xiangnan War Zone. The guild raked in a ton of profits, and its various caravans spread the names of their masters and mistresses far and wide. Liu Ming gently raised the King Luo fruit in his hand and asked, "Where did you get this?" Li Cheng, who had previously been forthright in answering Liu Ming's questions, now hesitated, a rare moment of hesitation. The origin of this fruit was the biggest secret of his group. This time, searching for supplies was secondary. Collecting these fruits was the primary mission. Fewer than 10 people in the entire group knew about this, and he, a mere C-level evolutionary, had earned the immense trust of the group leader to be entrusted with such a heavy responsibility. If the information about the fruit's origin were to be pried out from his mouth, he would instantly go from being the group leader's confidant to a criminal within the group. However, if he didn't disclose it, his life would be in jeopardy. Li Cheng was caught in a dilemma. Liu Ming remained calm, merely observing Li Cheng coldly, waiting to see how he would respond. The supporting characters of book friend Liu and his girlfriend appeared. The King Hua group. The male and female demons. Also, tomorrow will be an additional chapter for the 5th leader of this book. Remember to assess the boss. Chapter 266 Earth Changes requires waiting. With the emergence of various secret realms on Earth, the merging of space-time rifts, and the anomalously rapid migration of continental plates, the content of free energy and wanton substances in the air has increased. Within these energies, mysterious substances beneficial to the evolution of life have begun to subtly influence Earth's native flora and fauna. Of course, this influence and change is a relatively long process. It is against this backdrop that rare elemental items have appeared around the world. King Luo fruit, a relatively low-level elemental item between mid to high-grade grade, is practically dispensable to Liu Ming, who is already nearing the 1st tier S grade. However, if Liu Ming had to choose, he would rather forego many white-grade elemental items than the King Luo fruit, simply because it can be cultivated on a large scale. Of course, such large-scale cultivation is not without conditions. It's not as if simply having the right climate and fruit seeds will guarantee successful cultivation. Those who harbor such an idea have consistently failed in their attempts to cultivate King Luo fruit. Only the King Luo Chamber of Commerce possesses a dedicated base for large-scale King Luo fruit cultivation. According to widely circulated rumors, the King Luo Chamber of Commerce controls the mother root of the King Luo fruit. While there are numerous rare and valuable raw materials, those that can be cultivated on a large scale are extremely rare. This underscores the importance of the King Luo fruit. Naturally, Liu Ming's true interest wasn't this grade, mid to high grade King Luo fruit. It was the miraculous mother root. With the mother root, he could easily harvest as many King Luo fruits as he desired. Suddenly, Li Cheng raised his drooping head, his eyes bright and determined. "First, sir," he said, "I can promise you everything else, but I can't tell you about this." Liu Ming was amused by the other man's composure. "You won't tell me? Won't your men tell you?" "Not one for gratuitous murder." Liu Ming exited the vehicle and headed towards the other 2 SUVs. He planned to pry the rest of the convoy's information about the King Luo fruit's origin. If that didn't work, he could target Li Cheng. Li Cheng saw Liu Ming's strange smile, then silently stepped out of the carriage and approached his men. His heart tightened. He knew exactly what Liu Ming would do. If they were in his shoes, he'd probably do the same. Out of loyalty to the merchant leader, he had decided to keep his mouth shut. But he didn't expect his men to be as tight-lipped. Some of these men had been with the merchant group for just over 3 months, while others had been less than a month. Expecting their loyalty was like expecting a sow to climb a tree. He couldn't guarantee his men knew the exact source of the Kinglo fruit. Even if he carefully collected the Kinglo fruit, he couldn't do without his men. Traveling alone in the wilderness, unless one was as formidable as this terrifying creature before him, it would be impossible to make a single move. This made the secrecy of the Kinglo fruit collection mission even more difficult. They all knew, at least in part, that he had been traveling to a certain valley this morning in a strange manner. He couldn't guarantee that his men were unaware of this news. Just as Liu Ming was about to step out of the carriage, Li Cheng gritted his teeth and hurried forward. "Sir, please wait. Wait. Let me tell you." Liu Ming paused, turning to examine Li Cheng's fluctuating expression with interest. "Are you sure you want to tell me? What will happen if you try to deceive me?" Liu Ming's tone remained cold and emotionless, but the chilling chill in it sent a chill through Li Cheng's voice. "Sir, I swear on my life that I will tell you the details, but you must agree to one condition," Li Cheng replied nervously, a thin layer of sweat forming on his forehead that he dared not wipe. Liu Ming raised his brow, his tone slightly annoyed. "Oh, what condition?" He wasn't one for fuss or meddlesome matters. When it came to handling matters, he always believed in the simplest and most effective approach. Hearing the venom in Liu Ming's tone, Li Cheng's teeth chattered as he spoke tremblingly. I just wanted to ask the sir for permission while I consult our merchant leader." "Are you sure you're not kidding?" Liu Ming chuckled in anger. If he hadn't just returned from another dimension and was in a good mood, he would have punched the man who was trying to make fun of him to death. Ask their merchant leader for permission? What if their merchant leader disagrees? You misunderstand. Our merchant leader can't refuse your request. With your strength, even if we combine the forces of our entire merchant group, we can't even compete with you. It's just that our merchant group has recently encountered some trouble. Of course, this trouble is nothing to you. If you are willing to meet with our merchant leader, we will hand over the origin of the Kinglo fruit with both hands, even if you ultimately refuse to help us solve this problem." By the time he finished the last word, Li Cheng was sweating profusely. The moment the man before him showed some anger, he felt as if he were being stared at by some terrifying beast, and his whole body stiffened. Aside from his eyes and mouth, he could barely move a finger. Relieved, Liu Ming paused for a moment before saying, "I won't be returning to the Huayuan safe zone with you. I'd consider having him come see me." The Kinglo fruit mother root was the foundation of the Qinghua merchant's fortune. He was determined to sever their financial resources, and if he could do anything to help them, it would be a form of repayment. However, he wasn't foolish enough to simply believe Li Cheng's story. The Huayuan safe zone was far more powerful than the East safe zone at this stage, and Liu Ming didn't believe he had the skills to navigate it alone. Who knew if the Qinghua merchants had connections to the Huayuan safe zone's leaders? Pulling out the radish would bring back the dirt, and he didn't want to end up being besieged by the entire Huayuan safe zone. Li Cheng was overjoyed. He had no idea so many thoughts were running through Liu Ming's mind, and simply assumed he had agreed. He nodded immediately. "Sir, we'll wait here. I'll send a few men to the safe zone to fetch help." Finally, at Li Cheng's command, the rear guard sub and its 3 search team members set off for the Huayuan safe zone to fetch help. Li Cheng then drove everyone out of his own sub and respectfully invited Liu Ming to rest. Unexpectedly, Liu Ming refused, and could only smile awkwardly. Liu Ming leaped onto the back of the Kangao blood beast, closed his eyes, and waited. Chapter 267 First Meeting, Legendary Merchant Group. According to Li Cheng, this place is only a few dozen miles away from the Huayuan safety zone. Furthermore, after passing this county road, the main route to the Huayuan safety zone has been cleared by military and political forces. If the journey goes smoothly, the round trip should take about 2 hours. Liu Ming was curious about the couple, who founded the Qinghua Merchant Group and helped it grow to such an astonishing size. Their story, spread widely through the trade of the various caravans of the Qinghua Merchant Group, has become quite legendary. Before the disaster, Zhao Qinggao and Wu Shuanghua were just an ordinary couple studying business administration at Huaiyuan Business College. Both were seniors, facing the pressures of graduation and work, and the curse of breakup season. However, with the arrival of the apocalypse, all the pressures of modern society were swept away, and for most senior couples, the breakup season became a season of separation and death. No longer were careers or love the primary concerns, only the pure pressure of survival remained. It was either survival or death, with no third option, a tragic choice. However, even Zhao Qinggao and Wu Shuanghua, pure rookies barely out of the ivory tower, demonstrated their talent and savvy, managing a merchant syndicate affiliated with the Huaiyuan Security Zone's resource department. Eventually, both Zhao Qinggao and his wife became renowned masters among the evolvers. According to the Wuling hierarchy of 54 Ju and 63 Gancheng, Zhao Qinggao's strength would likely be considered a Ju titled one 10 years later, and Wu Shuanghua's would undoubtedly be no less than an ordinary Gancheng. Their strength was secondary, but their management of their teams and the operation of their syndicates was remarkable. The Huaiyuan Security Zone boasted a higher base of powerful individuals and a higher level of average evolvers than the Wuling region. Here, Ju-titled Ganchengs weren't considered true giants, but merely experts. However, Zhao Qinggao, through alliances and co-opting powerful military and political figures, developed his own monopoly business and expanded his financial resources, ultimately expanding the Qinghua Merchant Syndicate. Large-scale cultivation of Qingluo fruit was only the pillar industry of the Qinghua Merchant Group in the first few years of the apocalypse. 3 years into the new era, their industries expanded to new energy and weaponry. Over 50% of the new energy in the entire Huaiyuan safe zone was supplied by the Qinghua Merchant Group. Of course, this so-called new energy source wasn't natural gas or electricity. Instead, it was a high-energy substance extracted from specialized plant and animal oils, capable of releasing enormous amounts of energy when burned. After humanity scraped the last remaining gasoline from the ruins of the city, this new energy source became the fuel for most vehicles. With a monopoly on over 50% of the new energy supply in the Huaiyuan safe zone, one can imagine the immense power the Qinghua Merchant Group would possess in the future. If the apocalypse still had regional divisions of powerful enterprises, Zhao Qinggao's Qinghua Merchant Group would likely be one of the top 10 merchant groups in the Huaiyuan safe zone in 10 years. Liu Ming was quite interested in this kind of person. He wondered if his legacy in Wuling still existed. If it did, recruiting this person would be a brilliant move. This was also why Liu Ming was willing to wait patiently. The wait wasn't long. Less than an hour and a half later, 3 reinforced, modified off-road vehicles approached from the end of the road in a V-shaped formation, sending up clouds of dust. One of them was the Great SUV that Li Cheng had arranged for someone to hire. The leading vehicle was a Hummer with a chassis raised at least 30 centimeters. From a distance, it looked even more formidable and massive than the one Gong Weixin's brother had gifted her. In just a dozen breaths, the 3 vehicles approached from afar. A tall man and woman opened the doors and stepped out of the Hummer's backseat. The man looked rather thin, but his eyes were piercing, his brows firm, and his demeanor composed and steady. The tall woman, walking closely beside him, had long hair, a melon-shaped face, and a fair complexion rarely seen in the apocalypse. After all, unkempt and slovenly looks like Liu Ming's were the norm for survivors in the apocalypse. The woman's appearance wasn't stunning, but she was exquisitely refined, complimenting the man beside her. In peacetime, anyone observing them would have exclaimed, "What a perfect match." The people from the 3 SUVs gradually disembarked. There weren't many, only about a dozen in total. It seemed they weren't foolish enough to rally their forces to attack him. The stern-looking leader glanced impassively at the Kangao blood beast, which was gazing at him with a fierce gaze. He quickly retracted his gaze and bowed to Liu Ming, who was still perched on the blood beast's back, saying, "Senior, I'm Zhao Qinggao. It's a true honor to meet you." Zhao Qinggao looked at the scruffy, bearded man before him, feeling a bit puzzled. He was a pinnacle A-rank evolutionist. While not among the very best in the Huaiyuan safe zone, he wasn't weak either. Naturally, he could tell the man's power level was comparable to his own, neither exceeding S rank. But he couldn't figure out how, with his strength, this man could subdue such a terrifying beast. The beast's subtle, savage aura and undisguised, bloodthirsty gaze sent shudders down his spine. This beast's combat power was undoubtedly on par with the great gods within the safe zone, and even more dangerous and ferocious. Regardless of his strength, the mere fact that he could command such a ferocious beast was enough to command admiration, and Zhao Qingyu maintained a humble demeanor. As Zhao Qingyu studied Liu Ming, Liu Ming was also studying him. At this point, the head of the Qinghua Merchant Guild wasn't yet a prominent figure of later generations, his power level barely above A rank. At this stage, any of the Gangcheng would likely have reached S rank, but Zhao Qingyu was only A rank. It seemed this man's power in the future would be that of a latecomer. Compared to Zhao Qingyu, the woman beside him caught Liu Ming's attention. He was completely unaware of her power level. This practically meant that this woman was already an S-class evolver. Liu Ming swept through them with his immense mental power, further solidifying his conviction. As expected, his energy level surpassed both Zhao Qingyu and himself. As Liu Ming's mental power swept through the crowd like an invisible stream of particles, most people remained oblivious, unperceiving the slightest sign of anything unusual. Only 3 people's expressions suddenly changed. 2 of them were naturally Zhao Qingyu and his wife. The third, a burly and powerful man, was also an A-class evolver, and, aside from the couple, the strongest of the group. However, in Liu Ming's eyes, all 3 were completely insignificant. If his blood beast army could eventually be brought back from the alternate dimension, then these 3, aside from Wu Shuanghua, who was at S-class, would face a tough battle against any blood beast alone. They wouldn't even stand a chance against a fearless blood beast capable of healing through blood, let alone earn his attention. Liu Ming stopped observing and said directly, "Now that you're here, just tell me what your conditions are." Chapter 268, The Demonic Spirit in the Sword, The Blade of the Sword, Part 1. Upon hearing this, Zhao Qingyu made his request without hesitation. He gestured to a tall, muscular subordinate behind him, instructing him to retrieve a narrow, solid wooden box from the trunk of the Hummer. Zhao Qingyu lifted his hand and opened the box's lid. Primal energy surged through his body, and his hands shone with the distinctive red glow of his own primal energy. Amidst the fearful expressions of those around him, he solemnly withdrew a slender weapon from the box. It was a uniquely shaped long sword, with a narrow blade and a slightly curved blade. The tip of the blade was forked, like the tongue of a venomous snake. The sword's unusual appearance was secondary. What surprised Liu Ming was the chilling aura emanating from the blade, a chill that felt like a midwinter wind, biting his bones. This chill resonated with Liu Ming. "What is this?" Liu Ming asked, slowly uttering 2 words. After witnessing Liu Ming's level of view and ki firsthand, Zhao Qingyu had already harbored deep doubts about his ability to resolve this situation. However, the situation he encountered was of a bizarre nature, making it nearly impossible for anyone without a level 2 evolver or higher to resolve. Furthermore, he lacked the power within the safe zone to enlist the services of any of the level 2 giants. So, desperately trying his luck, he explained, "Senior, this is a divinely gifted weapon I unexpectedly acquired. It's not in perfect condition. It's been corrupted by an evil spirit, significantly reducing its power. Do you have any way to exorcise the evil spirit lurking within it?" Liu Ming was surprised. An evil spirit? He seemed to have encountered a similar evil spirit before at Gone Weekson's home. No wonder it seemed so familiar. He wasn't unfamiliar with such things, but whether he could undertake this undertaking remained to be seen. He didn't finish his speech, saying calmly, "Give me the sword, but I have a word to say. Once I've seen it, whether it works or not, I'm determined to obtain the Kinglo fruit." With those last few words, Liu Ming's tone darkened, brimming with unquestionable determination. Zhao Qingyu felt helpless at Liu Ming's words, but he dared not show even a hint of dissatisfaction. He nodded quickly, promising to hand over the source of the Kinglo fruit, regardless of success. He knew full well that, while the vast field of Kinglo fruit was truly valuable, a powerful individual, clearly from elsewhere, was eyeing it, and he couldn't protect it. Of course, he had considered handing over the information about the King Luo fruit to the powerful individuals within the safe zone. However, common sense told him that dealing with them would likely only lead to further losses. The members of the various merchant groups had learned their lesson the hard way. The military and government authorities looked down on the merchant groups and harbored a subtle hostility and repression. They desired stability, and the merchant groups, possessing powerful military forces, yet not fully under their control, were undoubtedly the greatest source of instability within the safe zone. If I were in their position, I'd probably be in the same boat. This left me with the only option, exchanging with this mysterious powerful figure. Fortunately, his methods weren't particularly brutal, at least he seemed honest. Liu Ming took the long sword, emanating a chilling aura, and activated his insight ability. Feng Hao Secret Sword, Blue 9-star, High Rare, Spiritually Erosion Status, currently Grey 9-star. Abilities, Feng Hao Slash, Binding Wind Sword. Effect, Ethereal and Light. This sword possesses the mysteries of wind, capable of severing any attack, stirring up endless waves, and granting its wielder the power to control the wind. Feng Hao Secret Sword. Upon seeing this blue 9-star weapon, Liu Ming couldn't help but recall his former sword, later replaced by Gu Yuan's Frostful Heavy Sword. Both were blue 9-star long swords, and both were in an incomplete state. His perception abilities were clearly insufficient to fully grasp the weapon possessed by an evil spirit. Not even the spirit's information could be revealed. This left him with two possibilities. 1. The spirit within the sword was too powerful, and his own abilities were insufficient to discern its presence. The other, the spirit and the sword were so deeply intertwined, practically fused into one, the spirit hidden too deeply for him to detect. Liu Ming instantly dismissed the first possibility. After all, judging by Zhao Qinggai's appearance, he must have held the sword for considerable time. After so long in contact with such a powerful spirit, it was highly unlikely that he hadn't sustained any substantial damage. Unless it was a benevolent evil spirit, that was ridiculous. How could there be evil in the presence of kindness? Could it be a benevolent spirit? This left only one possibility, the second. Anyone else, even a second level evolved class, would be blinded by such a weapon. Unfortunately, he encountered himself. His telekinesis was the perfect tool for dealing with spirits. Zhao Qinggai and the others suddenly felt a surge of overwhelming pressure, like the suffocating feeling of dark clouds before a storm. Liu Ming was using his immense mental power to probe the spirit within the sword. Sure enough, Liu Ming's sixth dimensional perception, fueled by his telekinesis, as he meticulously examined the entire sword, finally making a discovery. A faint, yet incredibly tenacious spirit was hiding within the blade. A faint purple line, invisible even to a transcendent of Zhao Qinggai's level, clung to the blade. From this line, like ink-stained paper, purple spots began to spread throughout the sword. The Feng Hao secret sword had been corroded by this creature, significantly reducing its power. As Liu Ming attempted to reach the consciousness hidden within the purple thread, a flash of surprise crossed his eyes. He immediately withdrew his perception and, looking at Zhao Qinggai, who was staring at him intently and expectantly, asked with a somewhat peculiar expression, "Are you sure you want to exorcise the spirit from this sword?" Zhao Qinggai replied impatiently, "Senior, do you have a way?" "I'm sure." Zhao Qinggai had by now gained 80% confidence in Liu Ming's abilities. His equally awakened sixth dimensional perception naturally sensed that the overwhelming pressure just now came from the man before him. He now completely regarded him as a figure on the same level as the giants in the safe zone, not just a lucky individual who relied on the monsters he controlled to wreak havoc. Someone with such immense mental power could not be judged by common sense. "Very well, since you're sure, then I'll proceed." Liu Ming's expression was odd, and the reason he asked for confirmation was that he had discerned the secrets of the spirit within the Feng Hao secret sword. Zhao Qinggai and the others, limited by their limited perspective, assumed the corroding swords were merely evil spirits, unaware that they contained a treasure coveted by countless others, a demonic spirit. However, the demonic spirit within the Feng Hao secret sword refused to be subdued by Zhao Qinggai. Instead of being used by him, it sought to control the sword it had entrusted to itself, transforming into a demonic spirit that was completely at odds with its wielder, thus damaging the Feng Hao secret sword. However, the Feng Hao secret sword and the demonic spirit were mutually exclusive. However, if Zhao Qinghai could subdue this mischievous nascent demonic spirit, his absolute edge would complement it, significantly increasing its power. Even upgrading it to a white weapon would not be impossible. Since Zhao Qinghai didn't want it, he had no obligation to explain the intricacies of the process. Furthermore, his mental strength was weak, making it impossible for him to subdue the demonic spirit. It was the so-called squandering of natural resources, guarding a mountain of treasure without realizing it. He could, however, use it for his own benefit and further elevate absolute edge. Today, my father-in-law and mother-in-law came back from out of town. I was ordered to pick them up for dinner and was busy all day. Well, I can only find time to update one chapter first and then update it continuously to make up for the one I owe and the one I added. Without exaggeration or understatement, let me calculate. Tomorrow, there will be 4 chapters. Chapter 269, The Demonic Spirit in the Sword, The Ultimate Sword Intent, Part 2. If another 10 years pass now, perhaps it won't even take 10 years at all. I'm afraid that in another 3 or 2 years, the existence of demon spirits will become a near open secret among the evolvers. Demon spirits are naturally a type of spirit, but they have little to do with evil spirits. They are naturally born souls imbued with magical power, which mages prefer to call magic souls. Their uses vary from person to person. Magicians favor crafting magic souls into advanced magical instruments, such as wands, magic scrolls, and magic armor. Warriors, on the other hand, prefer to simply fuse them with their weapons, transforming them into magical entities imbued with the weapon's will, the so-called artifact spirits. Of course, all of this presupposes that you can subjugate the demon spirit. Demon spirits pose little threat to life, but like a mischievous child, they are hostile to the weapon, their carrier. If a demon spirit cannot be subjugated, it will attempt to completely devour its carrier to strengthen itself and transform it into nourishment for its own growth. Liu Ming held the Feng Hao secret sword horizontally before him. Xitagab's telekinetic power, as heavy as the immovable earth, began to emerge in the form of tiny dust-like grains. Grains of Xitagab's telekinetic power, barely visible to the naked eye, began to swarm into the sword. Like a bullied child, the purple lines and countless purple spots on the sword's blade angrily tried to resist the incoming telekinetic sand. But as Liu Ming had expected, while this demonic spirit wasn't the weakest of the larval stages, it was more likely in its growth stage. It was still no match for Liu Ming's immense telekinetic power, rivaling that of a second-level telepathist. If Liu Ming's current telekinetic attack methods weren't primarily focused on more advanced telekinetic materialization, and if those awakened to telekinesis hadn't had fewer direct mental attacks, a direct attack directed at the spirit body would have crushed this demonic spirit, barely past the threshold of the nascent stage, without even the thought of resistance. Waves of dark yellow sand, like an unstoppable general storming a fortress, crushed the city after fortress with his mighty army. Purple spots were quickly obliterated by the dark yellow sand. As more and more purple spots were obliterated from the sword, the psychic sand, seemingly replenished, showed no sign of weakening, and instead intensified in power and frequency. Even as Liu Ming concentrated on attacking the spirit, everyone present was speechless with shock. As the mysterious man took the sword, this strange weapon, which had slain countless masters, erupted in a dazzling purple light. The mysterious man also stirred up a cloud of yellow sand, equally powerful. The yellow sand enveloped the mysterious man in the divine weapon. The back and forth between the yellow sand and the purple light, a fierce battle between the two, left everyone stunned. The energy fragments and shockwaves that erupted during the clash were a source of intense discomfort for everyone present. Eventually, they moved from a viewing distance of less than 10 meters from Liu Ming to 30 meters away. Zhao Qinghai and the other two remained within 30 meters, observing the battle between Liu Ming and the Feng Hao secret sword up close. These three too were not feeling well. Zhao Qinghai's expression, however, was filled with not only deep shock, but also a hint of ecstasy and a faint anticipation. Is this the true power of the Feng Hao secret sword? Yes. This is the blue weapon in its full state. After over half an hour of confrontation, the countless undetectable purple spots on the sword's blade were washed away by the telekinetic sand. Only a single purple line remained on the blade. Liu Ming's eyes narrowed, their irises narrowed to a slit, a dazzling brilliance gleaming from them. Xitigab's secret technique, earth sinking. The final blow depended on this final blow. Countless telekinetic sand particles surrounded the purple line on the blade, forming a miniature sandstorm nearly a man's height. Though small, the suction force within was astonishingly strong. Liu Ming released the Feng Hao secret sword. The blade, supported by an invisible force, hovered in mid-air, refusing to fall to the ground despite the immense suction of the sandstorm. Liu Ming attempted to pull it free from the Feng Hao secret sword, where it was stored. This was the demonic spirit's final struggle. However, the purple speckle had been completely devoured by the telekinetic sand. Having lost most of its derived power, the purple demonic spirit's remaining strength was no match for Liu Ming's victorious telekinesis. Furthermore, the swelling telekinetic sandstorm also contained the essence of the earth-sinking mystery. A deep purple light was gradually pulled from the Feng Hao secret sword's blade. The process was incredibly slow, like peeling off a thread, inch by inch. Zhao Qingyu, who was still waiting nearby, watched this scene from afar and could already remember sweating profusely. He watched the purple light as if it was some extremely evil spirit, fearing Liu Ming's loss of control. The spirit continued to cling to his Feng Hao secret sword. The purple demon had been largely extracted, and a chubby figure emerged. Like a chubby child, its body still hidden within the sword, its butt half sticking out. With a crash, the purple demon's entire body was finally pulled free by the sandstorm's relentless suction. A miniature, chubby child, no bigger than a normal human baby, appeared before them. This child, clad entirely in purple, looked pitch black and slightly comical. Swish. The purple demon refused to surrender, using all its might, unfazed by the blade's bruises, its two fat claws clinging to the sword, refusing to be sucked away by the sandstorm. Liu Ming laughed incoherently. Alright. Come here. With that, his right hand suddenly stretched out, transforming from a normal arm, considerably thicker than a normal human's, into a blood-red python. Its palm glowed with a yellow light, and it snatched the child right in the center of the sandstorm. The purple demon spirit seemed to realize that something was amiss, and began to struggle frantically. After a fruitless attempt to break free, it simply opened its mouth and bit. Unfortunately, Liu Ming had anticipated this, as his palm was already enveloped by Xitigab's telekinesis. The demon spirit's bite not only caused no pain, but with a snap, two of the baby teeth, also made of spirits, shattered in the collision with Xitigab's telekinesis. The purple baby screamed in pain. If Liu Ming hadn't known this creature's background, he might have even thought it was a somewhat strange human baby. Seeing Liu Ming grab the plump purple figure, the three people present all looked puzzled. Could it be that the evil spirit that they and others feared was this strange baby-like creature? Chapter 270, The Demonic Spirit and the Sword, The Blazing Sword Key, Part 2. Liu Ming watched the three men, their faces dazed. For a moment, a hint of impatience crossed his brows. He casually tossed the long sword in his hand. With a swish, the long sword, several times heavier than ordinary steel, traced a parabola and plunged straight into the mud in front of Zhao Qingyu. Zhao Qingyu finally snapped out of his daze, his gaze shifting from the purple demonic spirit still struggling and twisting in Liu Ming's large hand. This creature didn't look like the legendary evil spirit at all. I'll take care of it for you, Liu Ming said calmly to Zhao Qingyu, who was about to pull the long sword out of the mud. Zhao Qingyu was overjoyed upon hearing this, and quickly reached for the hilt. Unexpectedly, Liu Ming added, but don't be too happy. Although this sword has the potential to reach for blue 9 stars, it has been corroded by this spirit for too long. As he spoke, Liu Ming waved the small purple object in his hand. Its power is now reduced to a mere tenth of what it was. In other words, the Feng Hao secret sword is no longer in its perfect state. After I eliminated this spirit, its internal structure has been damaged. Zhao Qingyu's expression changed upon hearing this. The joy that had once graced his face froze. He quickly activated his insight ability to take a look. As expected, the Feng Hao secret sword's attributes no longer indicated the spiritual corruption state, but instead displayed a damaged state. However, he breathed a sigh of relief when the energy level, originally grey and 9 stars, had now risen to white and 4 stars. White divine weapons, especially those in their full, sealed state, are rare in the Huaiyuan safe zone. After all, white divine weapons represent a threat to those above the second level of evolvers. White weapons with 3 stars or higher are even rarer, likely only possessed by the truly influential figures within the safe zone. While not restored to the blue divine weapon he had imagined, a white 4-star rating was still achieved, even exceeding Zhao Qinggai's expectations. He even felt a faint sense of relief. He could still protect the white divine grace. If it were a blue divine grace weapon, even if the mysterious master had no intention of coveting it, if word leaked out, after returning to the safe zone, with his limited strength, he would likely face the same fate as the one he possessed. He casually swung the Feng Hao sword, and a gust of wind, like a swift movement of his arm, enveloped the blade and his arm. His swings sped up by at least 40%, and even with full force, the wind reduced his effort by at least 30%. Other effects were unknown, but Zhao Qinggai was overjoyed and stopped in his tracks. Before, he had to remember that even imagining himself wielding the Feng Hao sword with such ease, let alone gaining its amplification, was a pipe dream. He was thankful that the evil spirit above didn't harm him. Zhao Qinggai could no longer contain his surprise, and said to Liu Ming, "Thank you, senior. I'm very satisfied with this." "Very good. If you're satisfied, where's my stuff?" Liu Ming's expression remained unchanged, but a questioning tone lingered in his voice. His tone was cold, as if this treasure, worthy of a second-level evolver's attention, was nothing more than a commonplace item in his eyes. And in Liu Ming's eyes, it was indeed so. Indeed, after the evil spirit was apprehended, and the Feng Hao secret sword's spiritual erosion was eliminated, it had regained its power as a white 4-star weapon. His own Jufeng was only a grey 9-star, more than a level lower. But the Feng Hao secret sword's potential ended at white 4-star. The evil spirit had devoured the Feng Hao secret sword's essence. Jufeng, as a top-tier air weapon with a single attribute capable of growth, represented limitless possibilities. Besides, he didn't lack white divine items. The intermediate level wild summoning ring he still wore was a top-tier white 9-star air. However, the strength of the creatures summoned by this ring was linked to the level of his own Yuan Qi. The highest level of wild creatures he could currently summon was only the pinnacle of A level. However, with his immense mental power, he could summon up to 9 A-level wild creatures at once. His horizons weren't limited to the mere second-level white weapons. He had, after all, once been a third-level big boss. Zhao Qinggai handed the Feng Hao secret sword to Wu Shuanghua behind him, and said to Liu Ming Sr., "The Qingluo fruit production area isn't close to here. I'll take you there now. But my companions, could you please let them return to a safe zone first?" After all, he had barely taken 2 steps, barely finished his words, when he felt someone tugging at him. Glancing, he saw his wife tugging at his clothes with concern. He and Wu Shuanghua had known each other for nearly 10 years, and been in love for 4, and they could almost read each other's thoughts with a glance. Naturally, he knew his wife was worried about his safety. Although this mysterious man hadn't shown any hostility toward them thus far, and had even fulfilled his conditions, no one knew what would happen once he obtained the Qingluo fruit. This was why he wanted them to leave first. "Okay, they can go first, but you can't." Liu Ming, aware of their underlying calculations, remained non-committal. Ultimately, Li Cheng's convoy and the people accompanying Zhao Qinggai all returned. Only Wu Shuanghua refused to leave, as if leaving Zhao Qinggai alone would mean she would never return. Even the look in her eyes was wary as she looked at Liu Ming. Although most of the group had left, the Hummer remained, serving as a means of transportation. Wu Shuanghua sat in the passenger seat, while Zhao Qinggai drove. As for Liu Ming, he remained perched on the back of the Kangao blood beast. The Kangao blood beast was agile, its movements imperceptible, with each leap and landing, almost imperceptible. It was comparable to the most shock-absorbing vehicles. It was just designed to be open air, offering no protection from the element. On a once human highway, overgrown with weeds, a scene unfolded. A massive Hummer sped along, trailed by a beast even larger than the Hummer. Liu Ming, perched on the back of the Kangao blood beast, was also busy. Although he had forcibly extracted the demon spirit from the Feng Hao secret sword through telekinesis, the question of how to use it for his own benefit remained a daunting task. He had heard a great deal about demon spirits. After all, such precious artifacts were widely rumored. However, while there was much talk, there was little to be found. At least, no one Liu Ming had ever encountered had actually possessed a demon spirit. Naturally, he had no idea how to properly use it. He could only resort to the most rudimentary method. Countless grains of telekinesis emerged from Liu Ming's palm, enveloping the purple demon spirit like a Zhangzi. Then, Liu Ming grasped the struggling Zhangzi with his massive hand, attempting to pull it back into the Jufeng sword, just as he had previously pulled it from the Feng Hao secret sword. MMM. MMM. The demon spirit screamed shrilly. Liu Ming remained unmoved. He continued to push it up and down, almost squeezing the demon spirit into a pancake. With a puff, the demon spirit was actually stuffed in completely by him. Puff puff puff. The Jufeng sword trembled violently, and several lavender sword doras emerged from the sword without any warning. The sword dora instantly pierced through Liu Ming's right hand holding the sword. Liu Ming seemed to feel no pain, his expression unchanged, but a hint of surprise flashed in his eyes. His physical strength was comparable to that of a second-level pure power warrior. This purple sword dora could actually break through his defense and pierce through his arm without his reaction. How powerful was this? Liu Ming couldn't help but narrow his eyes as he thought about it. If you're listening to this novel on a channel other than Fanfic World, it means they downloaded and uploaded it without effort. We cordially invite you to visit our channel, Mundo Fanfic Novelos. There you'll find the original version of this story and you can explore many other novels of various genres. We're waiting for you to immerse yourself in a world of incredible novels. Chapter 271 Demonic Purple Child, Mother Root of the Valley. Liu Ming's right hand, slashed by the sharp sword energy, healed in a swell of blood red liquid before even a drop of blood could shed. Not even a scratch remained. Luckily, the sword energy had struck the scalded hand, which possessed the liquid-like damage immunity. However, healing these wounds pierced by the sword energy had instantly depleted Liu Ming's blood reserves. If it had been a simple piercing wound, the scalded hand's liquid damage immunity would have allowed the wounds on his hand to heal with almost no damage. It seemed that these purplish sword energies contained destructive energy with considerable offensive power. However, before Liu Ming could delve into the changes in Jufeng, after incorporating the demonic spirit within Jufeng, like a wayward child locked up by its parents, began to stir wildly. Before Liu Ming could suppress it again, it transformed into a ball of purple light and rushed out of Jufeng. Transformed once again into a chubby baby, it stared at Liu Ming with a faint menace, as if glaring at a bitter enemy. It looked rather comical. There's no point in struggling. From now on, you'll have to follow me. I might as well give you a name. You're round like a baby, and you're all purple, so from now on, I'll call you Zitong. Liu Ming looked at the creature, finding it strangely amusing. Suddenly, on a whim, he grabbed the fat man and named him. But Zitong clearly wasn't buying it, and continued to struggle. Liu Ming increased the force in his grip, trying to tame the creature. However, it wasn't effective. Being a spirit, the creature had no sense of pain. He was about to grab the creature and press it back into the absolute blade when Zhao Qinggai's voice suddenly rang out. Senior, we're here. It's the valley ahead. Cars can't get in. As soon as he finished speaking, the Hummer abruptly stopped. Liu Ming reined in the Kangao blood beast, grasped the demon spirit tightly in his palm, and turned over to walk over. The entrance was very narrow. The rock walls on either side of the entrance curved inward like the mouth of a gourd, widening the further in. This clever design accommodated two parallel entrances, so the Kangao blood beast naturally couldn't pass through. So Liu Ming left the Kangao blood beast waiting outside, and followed Zhao Qinggai and Wu Shuanghua, heading straight into the valley. It was no exaggeration to say that his current strength was even greater than the Kangao blood beasts, so whether or not he brought the Kangao blood beast with him wouldn't matter much. As the saying goes, skill breeds courage. He didn't believe this valley held any dangers he couldn't handle. After all, the one who had gone in to collect King Luo fruit was Li Cheng, a level 1 sea evolver. Even he had escaped unscathed. As long as there wasn't a deadly danger within that he didn't understand, but that Zhao Qingyu and the others knew about and could safely avoid, he naturally had no fear. If anything were to happen, he could directly control the two of them, confident of safety. The path leading to the valley was short, becoming increasingly spacious the further in he went. Reaching the base of the rock face, the sight was a sudden sense of enlightenment. At the foot of the rock path lay a vast jungle teeming with alienated vegetation. Alienated plants are those that have been affected by chaotic matter since the apocalypse. Nearly every plant on Earth has been affected to some degree by chaotic matter, so this became a general term, distinguishing them from ordinary plants of peacetime. The jungle wasn't large, encompassing the entire valley. It was about the size of 2 or 3 football fields, roughly the size of a small park in later times. However, the vegetation within was far more lush. Entering the jungle, Zhao Qingyu and Wu Shuanghua didn't stop. They seemed familiar with the route, following a well-trodden path, leading Liu Ming directly to the center of the jungle. Liu Ming, holding on to the still thrashing demonic purple child, followed them. The three of them made their way through a vast expanse of waist-high weeds, thorny bushes so thick they could be hugged by several men, and 2 or 3 stories tall. Finally, Liu Ming spotted a hue of emerald green, purer and deeper than the surrounding vegetation. Deep emerald fruits grew on vines, like goods hanging from vines. Each vine was connected to a massive trunk, thicker than an adult's waist. The trunk dug deep into the soil. If it weren't for its swaying form, Liu Ming would have mistaken it for the trunk of a large tree. Instead, he recognized it as the mother root of the King Luo fruit he was searching for. This mother root, at 4 or 5 meters long and as thick as an adult's waist, was even larger than the fire tree he had wrapped around the Kangao blood beast's tail. Have you tried transplanting it? Liu Ming asked Zhao Qingyu and his wife. Zhao Qingyu quickly replied, Senior, we've tried transplanting it several times, but all failed. It seems that once we leave this valley, any King Luo fruit vines lose their vitality and can no longer produce King Luo fruit. Ultimately, we gave up and decided to keep this place as a secret resource extraction point. Liu Ming was speechless. It seemed he could only take this pillar-thick mother root with him. It was already strange enough that he'd taken a single fire tree, but now he was also taking this even thicker King Luo mother root. I'm taking it away. Liu Ming said firmly to Zhao Qingyu. What? Senior, you said take it away. Zhao Qingyu was bewildered. Take it away. Take all the King Luo fruit? Or just the entire King Luo fruit vine? Zhao Qingyu wasn't sure what Liu Ming meant, but Liu Ming ignored him. Instead, he drew his sword and decisively swung it. Without hesitation, he struck a branch extending from the King Luo fruit mother root. He only wanted the mother root of the King Luo fruit. He wasn't planning on taking the branches along with him. After all, there were over a dozen branches, each extending several to dozens of meters. Without a vehicle, carrying them all was impossible. Crack. Only when Liu Ming completely severed the first branch from the mother root with a single blow, did Zhao Qingyu and his wife finally come to their senses. They also understood what Liu Ming meant by taking the King Luo fruit vine with him. This was truly the moment to pack it up and take it away. He opened his mouth several times, wanting to say something, but each fell silent, unable to utter a single word. Besides the agreement between him and the other party, this patch of King Luo fruit, and indeed the entire King Luo fruit resource, already belonged to the man before him. He had no right to interfere. Given his opponent's strength, he was powerless to stop him. Ultimately, the two could only watch helplessly as Liu Ming chopped off the dozen or so branches from the 4-meter-long King Luo fruit vine's main trunk. Then, carrying the trunk on his shoulder, he began to walk away. Zhao Qingyu and his wife stared in amazement as Liu Ming followed the pillar-like vine trunk out of the valley. A distant voice reached him. Gather these King Luo fruits for me. I want to take them all with me. This update makes up for yesterday's overdue one. I'm already exhausted from the wind and sand, so yesterday's extra update might be a bit late. Good night, everyone. Chapter 272. One after another, fierce punches. The mother root of the rare and precious Kinglang fruit resembled an oversized cotton plant, also known as a creeping weed. However, this creeping weed was surprisingly thick and sturdy. Its entire body was a translucent emerald green, its color and texture unlike the characteristic brownish-brown skin of most plants. Liu Ming had severed the mother root, and at the broken end, sap flowed, juicy and green. However, this sap, like solidified jelly, pooled at the broken end, threatening to drip, yet not a single drop fell. This emerald liquid also emitted a faint, almost odorous scent. Liu Ming initially didn't find it unusual, but after inhaling it several times, he finally realized something was wrong. He took a deep fragrant breath. The fragrance, similar to the plant's aroma, surprisingly contained a faint, pure, primordial energy. As he considered it, his expression suddenly changed. These tiny amounts of primordial energy had little effect on him, but the fragrant aroma of primordial energy emanating from the mother root was like a candle in the darkness of the night, attracting countless lurking dangers like moths to a flame. Sure enough, before Liu Ming could even leave the valley carrying the mother root, the roars of monsters echoed from outside. Liu Ming's expression remained unchanged, but behind him, the two people who were still collecting the saplings laden with saplings from his branches were startled. The roars outside were clearly not the product of one or two monsters, or even a dozen. They were definitely coming from a swarm of monsters. Encountering a large group of monsters in this wilderness, far from human safety, was a desperate situation for any survivor. Zhao Qinghai, who didn't even bother collecting the remaining saplings. He quickly grabbed his wife and ran towards Liu Ming, carrying the hundreds of saplings they had already collected. Liu Ming turned to look at the two, his face etched with displeasure. He shouted coldly, "When I told you to collect the green mulberry fruit, I meant all of them, not just these few." Zhao Qinghai's face faltered, and she gritted her teeth as she explained, "Senior, there's a herd of monsters out there. They might be surrounded." Liu Ming ignored the threat and instead issued an even colder command. "I guarantee your safety. Return immediately and bring back every last one of the green mulberry fruit." Zhao Qinghai breathed a sigh of relief and prepared to turn back. Having spent some time together, he knew the cold-blooded man before him wouldn't act without purpose. But Wu Shuanghua frowned, a hint of anger visible on her pretty face. She was about to say something else. The beasts were already approaching, and collecting the green mulberry fruit now was a sheer joke. Zhao Qinghai knew something was wrong and quickly pulled his wife along, heading back into the valley, fearing a conflict between her and Liu Ming. He was a moderate figure within the safe zone, but in front of this pervert, he was likely just a random laborer, his death a waste. Liu Ming offered no refusal. Carrying the hundreds-pound mother root of the green arborvitae, he strode with ease, crossing the 100-meter-long canyon in a few leaps. Before Liu Ming could even make it out of the valley, the entrance was already swarming with a multitude of wild monsters. The largest group was a pack of rotting wolf-like creatures, over a man's height, yet emaciated. Their sharp teeth and snouts were visible, and foul saliva dripped from their mouths. Their claws gleamed with an unusual glimmer in the sunlight. Each one looked formidable, let alone a herd of hundreds. A smaller number of creatures, each seemingly even more formidable, watched from the valley's entrance. Each one's eyes flickered with greed, as if a luscious juicy piece of meat lay within the valley, tempting these long-starved wolves. The Kangao blood beast, meanwhile, crouched beside the Hummer, its eyes narrowed, blocking the valley in trance as if dozing, not even glancing at the various monsters gathered there. Intimidated by the Kangao blood beast, these wilderness monsters dared not enter the valley in trance. Yet, they remained unwilling to leave, confronting it, until Liu Ming emerged from the valley, like a drop of water falling into a boiling pot of oil. The scene erupted in chaos. The first to attack were the pack of rotting giant wolves. Led by several larger leaders, they charged directly at Liu Ming, who had just emerged from the valley. Other monsters followed suit, like a group of demons vying for Tang Monk's flesh. Liu Ming was startled at the sight of so many monsters charging towards him, then laughed grimly. He naturally understood that these creatures were likely drawn here by the primordial scent he had just experienced. He coldly addressed the monsters, "This is mine. How dare you come and steal it?" Upon hearing its master's voice, the Kangal blood beast drowsily rose to its feet, its face scanning the group with a fierce glare, like a tiger surveying a flock of sheep, observing and selecting the fattest lambs. Liu Ming tossed the essence root to the Kangal blood beast, which had just emerged from its dormant state. Come on. That way I'll have my hands free to deal with these small fry. Then, channeling his telekinesis, he thrust Zitong back into the absolute blade and imprisoned him with the power of Xitagaba, imitating it to disrupt the battle or even flee. He slung the absolute blade across his back, then, barehanded, with his feet slightly bent, he launched a blast of white air towards the first attacking wolf. He clenched his fists into a beak-like shape and launched a cannonball at the largest, rotting giant wolf in the pack. The alpha wolf, over 2 meters tall, 4 or 5 meters long, and perhaps as heavy as a wild elephant, was sent flying backward at a speed even faster than it had rushed. Liu Ming's fist smashed into the wolf's massive head, leaving a bloody hole the size of a bowl. The force of the punch, already clinging to it like a leech in midair, remained undiminished, causing the wolf's head to explode with a soft thud. Bang, bang, bang. The sound of fists colliding with flesh echoed in succession, each one marking the death of an alpha wolf. Within a few breaths, several alpha wolves, leading the pack, fell victim to Liu Ming's blows. Seeing their leaders lying in a pool of blood, the pack's offensive faltered, a sense of the innate fear of death seized upon them. Liu Ming stood over the corpse of one of the alpha wolves, withdrawing his fists, now stained with broken bone and blood, and taking a deep breath. Today, my car was scratched again when I went to work. It was the second time. I was so tired. The surveillance car was parked in the blind spot and no one found it. I couldn't see the vehicle that caused the accident. Oh, I was so tired. Chapter 273, Wild Beast Corpse Mountain, Extracting Blood Energy. After a brutal slaughter, all the alpha wolves were killed on the spot. Liu Ming didn't utilize any of his supernatural abilities, not even the power of the volcanic furnace heart, his primordial energy, or his telekinesis. Instead, he relied on pure, brutal physical strength, punching down these giant wolves, whose power levels were no less than Zhaoqingyu's, who was still gathering green almond fruit in the valley. As casualties mounted, the wolves retreated in fear of death, but the other monsters showed no sign of giving up. Many of them were far more powerful than the alpha wolves, leaving them no reason to retreat. Moreover, the mother root's attraction was fatal to creatures that had evolved in the chaotic matter of the changing world and were extremely sensitive to primordial energy, still coming to die. After killing 7 or 8 alpha wolves and a number of ordinary giant wolves, Liu Ming's killing intent had greatly diminished. However, seeing that these creatures hadn't given up, he cursed them for being reckless and channeled his primordial energy into the shimmering green nature ring in his hand. A green light emanated from the ring, expanding to form a bizarre array of light. Ferocious wolves, barely larger than the leader, leaped from the light array. Each one transformed into a bolt of lightning, pouncing on the monsters attacking Liu Ming. 10 wolves emerged in quick succession. 3 massive, bloated figures followed. Standing upright, they stood as tall as a floor, their size rivaling that of the Kangal blood beast. 3 giant grey bears emerged from the summoning array, their immense strength astounding. Their palm leaf fan-sized paws could swat away a horde like stink bugs. By this time, Liu Ming, who had summoned over 10 nature-type creatures, had exhausted a third of his yuan ki. He began to cease summoning. The 3 grizzly bears and 10 giant wolves formed a vast army of beasts, firmly blocking Liu Ming's path like a reef amidst the waves, colliding with the oncoming monsters. For a moment, the battle was evenly matched, and the ferocious monsters held their line of defense. Liu Ming, standing behind the beast army, began to mobilize his remaining primordial energy. Streams of dark, evil dragon mantra energy swirled around him, roaring out at the surging monsters. Boom, boom, boom. It was like a dazzling explosion of fireworks, but when these fireworks were interspersed with a vast array of remains and flesh, even pieces completely scorched by the ashen flames, the scene lost its beauty and became even more terrifying and eerie. Under the threat of the evil dragon mantra, the monsters blocked by the beast army unleashed a tremendous desire for survival and fighting power, unleashing their sharp claws, fangs, and poison upon the beasts. The beasts began to suffer casualties. Those who perished in battle left no body behind, but simply transformed into energy and dissipated into the air. And for every giant wolf that vanished, 10, even dozens of times more monsters perished. Smelly blood and corpses gradually piled up before Liu Ming, forming a sea of blood. As Zhao Qingyu and Wu Shuanghe emerged from the valley, dragging two crude baskets made from locally sourced rattan, filled with a vast supply of Qingluo fruit, they were stunned speechless by the scene before them. Even Liu Ming had finally ordered the Kangao blood beasts not to participate in the battle. Before he had even exhausted his resources, he had already driven back the horde of hundreds, nearly 1,000 monsters. When the monsters finally retreated, terrified of death, and abandoning the delicious treat before them, only 3 scarred grey bears and a battered giant wolf remained standing before Liu Ming. The rest of the feral summoned creatures had perished in the battle. Hearing a rustling sound behind him, Liu Ming turned and saw the 2 men emerging from the valley. He glanced at the 2 baskets of Qingluo fruit they were carrying and estimated the total number to be roughly the same as the Qingluo fruit he had seen growing on the branches. He nodded, waved his hand, and said, "You may go." Zhao Qingyu glanced at his wife, as if reassuring her. Wu Shuanghe, however, rolled her eyes at him, as if trying to dissuade him from some idea. Finally, Zhao Qingyu and Wu Shuanghe exchanged a glance, bowed deeply to Liu Ming, and said, "Take care." Without further ado, they turned and left. The Hummer's engine roared, and Zhao Qingyu sighed as he sat back in the leather chair. Wu Shuanghe, as if guessing his thoughts, said with a hint of sarcasm, "He's not on the same level as us. I know you want to recruit him, but you'd better give up on that idea." Zhao Qingyu then said something that Wu Shuanghe wasn't expecting. "You've got it wrong. I'm not trying to recruit him. I'm trying to invite this great deity back to be the head of the merchant group, and I'll be his deputy." Wu Shuanghe was stunned, but then she understood her husband's intentions. Although the safe zone had been established, human civilization was showing some signs of restoring order. But both of them, as high-ranking members of the safe zone, knew this order was only superficial. Even now, 6 months after its establishment, the safe zone still lacked the most basic food source for human survival. They relied entirely on search teams scavenging for supplies, and the food they managed was limited. Consequently, food within the safe zone became, in a sense, more precious than human life. This was definitely not a long-term solution. Under these conditions, the existential struggles of the apocalypse were deeply ingrained. Various organizations, even within the military and political circles, were constantly squabbling over these conflicts. Their own Blue Flower Merchant group was a mere sliver, vulnerable to being devoured by the larger fish if they weren't careful. In this situation, this mysterious and terrifyingly powerful man, who, after a brief encounter, proved to be true to his promises and, at least, not a bad person, became the best option for the Blue Flower Merchant group to truly survive the apocalypse. With this man's protection, the Blue Flower Merchant group's future was undoubtedly far greater than that of a small merchant group. However, after a moment of helpless glances, the two could only exchange a wry smile. Not only was this mysterious man merely passing through, even if he was interested in joining a certain faction, why would he choose him? Moreover, this man clearly possessed an unusually strong mindset, and he wouldn't be easily persuaded. Putting aside the size of Zhao Qingyu and his wife, Liu Ming, looking at the corpses scattered across the ground, had already begun to work. He activated his advanced blood energy essence extraction technique, extracting blood energy essence from each corpse, leaving no body untouched. This was one of the reasons Liu Ming allowed Zhao Qingyu and his wife to leave first. This corpse refining technique, where a single suction could create a dried corpse, was incredibly unorthodox. Liu Ming didn't want his ability to be known to too many people. Chapter 274, Blood Road Return, Small Town Wolf Bear. Liu Ming absorbed each piece of blood energy essence directly with his scholared hand. His yuan qi, already mostly depleted, began to replenish. Blood energy also contained a significant amount of pure yuan qi. Though the quantity was small, it was inexhaustible. Each piece of blood energy essence contained a small amount, allowing Liu Ming to rapidly recover his yuan qi. This, in turn, led to a rapid increase in blood energy. since annihilating the entire swarm of yellow sandworms in the alternate dimension. This was Liu Ming's first such large-scale slaughter. The blood energy contained in yellow sandworms was pitifully low. As a corrupted species, yellow sandworms never possess much blood energy, except for specialized corrupted beasts like the blood eagle. Yet, the numerous corpses before him were imbued with surging blood energy. As each piece of blood energy essence rapidly vanished, Liu Ming's blood energy surged again. Within the crimson arm-like magic matrix deep within his brain, a dim star gradually lit up. The third magical quality, blood energy regeneration. Liu Ming awakened two magical properties of the Scholar Hand, liquid immunity and stretchability. At first glance, blood regeneration appears similar to liquid immunity, seemingly overlapping. However, upon understanding its true function, Liu Ming discovered that it was significantly different from liquid immunity, and even more powerful and perverse. This property, after consuming blood energy, stimulates cell division in any damaged part of the body, achieving regeneration. Liquid immunity, on the other hand, only affects the Scholar Hand. Only the right hand can transform into blood for damage immunity. Each has its own merits, but blood regeneration is undoubtedly far more powerful. Liu Ming remembered the days when he was broken, his strength severely compromised. If he had possessed this magical property, directly regenerating his arm through blood energy, he wouldn't have remained a one-armed warrior for so long. Whoosh! As the last bit of blood energy essence was absorbed by Liu Ming, he let out a long sigh of relief. He casually unleashed a crimson ray. Puff! The rock face, 50 or 60 meters away, was instantly pierced through. The Scholar rays pierced the wall diagonally, each no less than 4 or 5 meters apart. A faint red gas could be seen emanating from the pierced rock wall. Not only was its penetrating power terrifyingly strong, it was also clearly corroded by the Crimson Ray's corrosive energy. The Crimson Ray's enhanced power alone was enough to pose a lethal threat to an S-rank defensive warrior evolutionist. Even an S-rank warrior's defense wouldn't necessarily be as strong as a 4 or 5 meter thick rock wall. He didn't stop, swerving closer to the rock wall. He extended his right hand, twisting his fingers together. A crimson shimmer shone from his fingertips, and he effortlessly tore through the rock wall like tofu. With another push, the rock wall crumbled, crumbling into dust. Liu Ming nodded in satisfaction at the sharpness of the deadly scarlet. Leaving behind a pile of shrunken monster carcasses, Liu Ming leaped onto the Kangal blood beast, its tail wrapped around the fire tree and the root of the essence, and streaked off into the distance. The root of the essence continued to exude the fragrant aroma of plants imbued with primordial energy, and Liu Ming had no intention of shutting it out. Naturally, he wouldn't refuse the monster offering him blood energy. The journey home was destined to be bloody and turbulent. Along the way, Liu Ming was attacked by various terrifying monsters that roamed the wilderness. There were giant red-haired bears 2 or 3 stories tall, ferocious wolves with their maws flared and split open to the back of their heads, and vultures as massive as helicopters, reeking of decay. There were also faint traces of demons, devils, demons, and undead. The magic and necromancy favored by demons and undead were both variants of primordial energy. Their sensitivity to primordial energy was far inferior to their own, even to those of the alien forces tainted on Earth. Otherwise, Liu Ming would never have dared brazenly drag the essence mother route through the wilderness. Earth's native mutated monsters, at their current rate of evolution, are at best comparable to humans. And alien invading races like demons might even present third-tier monsters. Just because Liu Ming had the right timing, location, and people to trap the third-tier lava snake, it didn't mean he truly possessed the strength and confidence to face any third-tier monster head-on. Ultimately, he was only at the second tier, and even with all his cards at hand, he could only handle weaker mid-tier and C-tier second-tier monsters. Between him and the third tier lay several insurmountable chasms, and the geographical advantage he had with the floating volcano was unlikely to reoccur. The primordial energy emanating from the essence mother root's port was already pitifully low, and precisely because of this, it struggled to attract truly terrifying high-level monsters. Along the way, Liu Ming encountered no more than the strongest monsters of the second rank, allowing him to charge through with minimal effort, leaving behind strange, mummified corpses drained of their energy. His journey was smooth, ending in a small town. This was the town called Qingjian. According to Zhao Qinggai's map, The town, located at the border of Huaiyuan and Wuling, was no more than 20 kilometers from Wuling city. Liu Ming continued his pace. The Kangal blood beast, like a ferocious bear, directly slammed into the town, slamming down several reckless mutants that charged at him. They were about to cross the town and head towards Wuling. Just as Liu Ming and the Kangal blood beast entered the small town center, a 3-story building on their path suddenly collapsed. With a tremendous force, the building toppled towards Liu Ming. Liu Ming slapped the Kangal blood beast's head, and it flashed backward, escaping the collapse. A massive creature, barely taller than a 3-story house 7 or 8 meters tall, appeared behind the recently collapsed building. Its bloodthirsty gaze fixed on Liu Ming and the dam. A bear wolf. Liu Ming couldn't help but mutter as he gazed at the monster blocking his path. Its features were so distinct that even he, who had never been to its lair, remembered its name. Its fur was grey and black, and its body, standing upright, resembled a human bear, though its face was sharper and wedge-shaped than that of its kind. It resembled a wolf's head, earning it the name wolf bear in later generations. However, back then, it had already evolved to the 5th level of Nirvana, commanding a host of 4th level transcendental bear progeny. It was simply too much for him to handle. As for now, that was no longer certain. Liu Ming's expression brightened. The wolf bear's appearance proved its lair was definitely nearby. This was a female bear, only at the lower 2nd level, so its value might be limited. But it also has a litter of bear cubs. Those cubs are good things, with potential of at least level 4. With a little training, they can be very helpful. This update is for the helmsman, to remember to evaluate and add more. I also thank all the other brothers who subscribed, voted, and supported me. I'm very grateful and my heart is warmed. Chapter 275, Brute Force Resist, Show Mercy, Part 1. Just as the wolf bear emerged from the cloud of dust rising from the collapsed houses, a group of 8 or 9 men, each armed with a variety of weapons, filed out of their cars and entered the town from the other side of the town center. They parked their vehicles at the entrance, just as the houses collapsed in front of Liu Ming, blocking his path. "Boss, what's that noise?" A tall, thin man with protruding ears and a keen sense of hearing was the first to notice the commotion, and shouted to the muscular man in the group. The only woman in the group also looked surprised. "Which direction is it?" "That's the overlord of King Jia village, the lair of the wolf bear." The captain, as they were calling him, had been staring at the direction of the loud noise since he got out of the car. Now, as if sensing something, he looked in that direction with a serious expression and said. At the mention of the wolf bear, everyone's expression changed. Although their team was considered one of the strongest among the evolvers, they were no match for a level 2 monster like the wolf bear. "So, should we still go in?" asked the man with the ears, somewhat hesitantly. They had come to King Jiazhuang on a mission. King Jiazhuang, a small town nestled within the Huaiyuan suburban industrial park during peacetime, was home to a wealth of sophisticated equipment. Their mission was to locate processing machine tools and raw materials. The military and political leaders of the Wuling security zone who had assigned them this mission had even allocated 3 heavy trucks, 2 armored vehicles, and 4 military off-road vehicles to ensure swift completion. Everyone knew that, aside from the wolf bear, there were no other dangers in the town beyond the team's capabilities. However, the recent disturbances were caused by the wolf bear. This had caused the usually cautious team to hesitate. If anything went wrong, a direct encounter with the wolf bear would mean annihilation for their team. "Go." Finally, the team leader gritted his teeth, waved his hand, and signaled everyone to follow, then headed towards the town. Their team's purpose, besides searching for special supplies for the safe zone's military and government, was also to hunt powerful monsters for their research. The rewards from the military and government varied depending on the difficulty of the mission. This mission, searching for precision lathes and special alloy materials, was arguably the most lucrative in recent times, with rewards so high that they were hard to pass up. 1 first level layer level 2 S level evolutionary grace, 3 first level B level 2 A level evolutionary graces, and 100 units of ore. This meant gathering all the necessary equipment, though the rewards would eventually decrease, based on the level of completion. The captain of this mercenary team had been stuck at S level for nearly 2 months, unable to make any progress. The core members of the team were also stuck at A level. These 4 evolutionary graces were a timely relief. A great reward always brings courage. Not to mention the potential danger from the wolf bear. Even if it meant a sea of fire and swords, the group was determined to forge ahead. By the time they began to fan out and sneak into the town, the battle between Liu Ming and the wolf bear had already begun. The wolf bear, covered in thick, dark grey fur, stood 8 or 9 meters tall, like a towering giant, towering significantly above the roadside utility poles. The wolf bear looked bloated, somewhat resembling an enlarged brown bear. However, its agility was beyond Liu Ming's expectations. Almost in a single pounce, it leaped from behind the collapsed building and reached Liu Ming. Liu Ming's pupils shrank, astonished by the wolf bear's speed. The Kangao blood beast, having received Liu Ming's orders, suppressed its equally bloodthirsty and violent emotions, leaping back to avoid the wolf bear's tentative attack. Boom. Even after Liu Ming dodged the attack, the wolf bear's attack continued unabated, devastating a roadside shop like it had been hit by a cannonball, with half the shop reduced to rubble. Liu Ming, watching the wolf bear's display of incredible strength, was instantly overjoyed. He patted the Kangao blood beast's head and dove down. "Stay aside, I'll deal with him myself." After instructing the Kangao blood beast, Liu Ming leaped forward, charging towards the wolf bear like a phantom. His crimson cape fluttered at his wind-like speed, and his rock-like, angular muscles bulged rapidly, seemingly ready to explode. Bang! Liu Ming slammed his fist into the wolf bear. Though the bear blocked his blow with a wave of its paw, it still managed to force it back half a step. The wolf bear, weighing tens of tons, was repelled by Liu Ming, and the ground shook, as if by an earthquake. "Boss, did you hear that? It sounds like an earthquake." As the search team drew closer to the center of the town where Liu Ming and the wolf bear were battling, the man with the big ears asked in awe, "Liu, you must have heard wrong. There's no vibration." The wolf bear had only taken a half step back before stabilizing itself, so the vibration had been reduced to a less pronounced level by the time it reached a distance. Compared to the specially enhanced hearing of the wind ears, his companions didn't feel much. "Captain, I'm getting the feeling the wolf bear's lair is dangerous. How about we change our route?" Someone, trusting the wind ears, suggested. "Change route, that's easy enough for you. There's only one road in Qingjiazhuang leading to the industrial park. We'd have to leave town and go around the mountain road behind." Someone scoffed at the suggestion. "Alright, stay hidden. Let's go over and see what's going on. If the wolf bear is on a rampage, we'll change our route immediately. If there's still a chance, we'll go through town." The captain finally gave the final word, and everyone continued their advance at a steady pace. Meanwhile, after Liu Ming's punch, the wolf bear began to realize that the human before him was different from the weak, insect-like humans he had previously eaten. Although this human's strength was still far inferior to his own, his destructive power was enough to threaten him. That punch just now had actually made the wolf bear feel something he hadn't felt in a long time: pain. The wolf bear began to face this enemy squarely. Its intelligence was no less than that of a young human, and it was because of this wisdom that it had survived and evolved to this day, and it already knew how to use weapons and tools. It did not attack Liu Ming directly again, but instead pulled up a telephone pole from the roadside. The pole and the cement on the ground were pulled out by the wolf bear. With a pair of broad, strong and powerful bear paws, it swung the pole like an iron rod and smashed it towards Liu Ming. End of this chapter. Thank you very much for reaching the end. Don't forget to like. Looking for more exclusive content and immediate access? Subscribe to our Patreon. Remember, every like, subscription, or donation encourages us to continue. Thanks to everyone. See you in the next video.